So we will start this meeting of the Jericho Selectboard. As usual, we start with public to be heard. Is there things that are people wish to speak to that is not on the agenda?
Yes.
Please come up.
Hello,
Good about energy after being at the Coles on Monday, huh?
that's right.
Tuesday, actually.
My name's Connie. I know everybody here, we've seen you before. I live on Old Pump Road. And we haven't had much of a winter, and it looks like we're already in the mud season.
Yeah,
So what that means for Old Pump Road is that the creamy season has begun early.
yes.
And so that raises a couple questions for me. And I'm here on behalf of a bunch of residents of Old Pump Road. So last year, the board's position was that the way to help the parking situation was to sort of educate the customer that Old Pump Road was really a road. And so white lines were painted on the apron, so people would say, oh, that's a crosswalk, so it must be a road. I know that happened up towards the end of the season. So my two questions then are there any plans in the work on how to handle the parking issue created by Maple, the Palmer Creamy Place? And two, word on the street is that there is talk of paving parts of Old Pump Road to sort of help educate maybe between the customers that it's a road. So if anybody could address that, that'd be great.
On the, well, I can tell you, yes, we're not gonna pave Old Pump, but there's the apron part, and that is on the list of things that could be paved this year. And that's, we'll go into the road, starting at the Route 15, and go into Old Pump. And then it'll have all the appropriate lines on it to let people know that, there is, 2 lanes and it is a road. And that, were you also talking I think it's in the bridge?
Yeah, so the paving objectives for this year, townwide are focusing on aprons and entrances to roads, Old Pump being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on budget and priority, the goal would be to both pave the bridge and the aprons approaching the bridge on either side. And then based on the early engineering assessment that we did is difficult, because what will happen is once they start paving the bridge itself, until they start getting involved in excavating the old pavement, they won't know what, if any, existing challenges lie beneath, which may consume more of the funds that we would otherwise allocate for the apron paving. So that's at this point, that is kind of the consideration of the driver. Ultimately, given the totality of the budget and what our engineer determines will be possible within that budget in terms of linear paving, we'll have to make, or the select board will have to make priority-based decisions about which of those aprons gets the attention it needs.
Okay, so you said a couple of things that you said 2 lanes. Old Pump Road.
Well, you'd see, at the apron of Route 15, that it would look like there are 2
So
lanes.
my concern with paving, obviously, is the road gets even wider. But, and you pave to the bridge. If you
Oh, we're
pave-
not paving to the
No, no,
bridge.
Oh, what'd you say? Pave to
They're
what?
just the aprons, the
Apron.
apron in, and then on either side of the bridge a little bit.
So the entrance
So
and
where
exit
would
to the
where would the
bridge,
apron end?
I don't know, a few feet forward and on either side of the bridge. So the entrance to the bridge would be softened for motorists.
But then she's also asking about the apron from Route 15 in.
Right,
Oh, Again,
yeah.
that's to be determined.
And the purpose to the paving it is to what? I guess I get.
One of the biggest
I get the
concerns that
bridge
we
part,
heard,
But I don't.
One of
get
the biggest concerns that we heard that I totally resonated with is when if people aren't from here, they pull into that area, they have no idea it's really a road. I've heard something, people have said that, right? Like, they're just like walking around like it's a parking lot. And so what I had hoped personally, when I thought of it, was having the apron, having the lines there kind of shows like, oh, I'm standing on a road and I'm not in a parking lot. That's what some of that is to affect. I don't know of a lot of other great solutions that are gonna solve this problem. So if you have a few, I am personally open to at least listening to.
We all are.
Okay, I think that there is a customers being unaware, and there's just a parking issue. The same I'm saying, there's a parking issue,
Mhm.
and having people aware that it's a road is not going to fix the parking issue. So. It's just not, so other.
Right, and that
ideas
was to
have been
address, that was the
proposed.
safety issue.
That
That was
was
to
the
address the
safety
safety issue of people just
Correct.
meandering, hanging out, thinking they're in a parking lot, not realizing that they're really standing on a road.
Right, and there were some proposals, but the problem was in terms of, like, paving some of the field and other, but no one wants to pay for that.
They also don't own the property.
Right, they don't own the property, but they can also have discussions. So I get it. I don't have a solution. I just want to know what the board's position was, because last year, I know it really didn't, I understand educating the customer, but I don't think that's particularly effective.
I mean, we're gonna do what we can. I mean, and with funding we have, I mean, because we can't really do much else. Because it's not appropriate to use taxpayer monies to actually put a parking lot in for somebody either.
Right, but it's your job to keep the road safe.
Yeah, so that with
So-
what we're doing is the safety issue with the people standing around and walking in front of each other, things like that.
Right, okay, but there's still safety concerns with the parking, so.
Can I ask a question about that? Talking about from 15 and then the curtain there, how far back is that talking about going? Like, is that going back past the parking area of Old Pump? I mean, of
I think that
Palmer?
apron goes a ways in.
Yeah,
It goes a ways
it
in.
does go quite a bit.
It's not, it's more than just an apron.
It doesn't go all that far, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably, I was out there with our engineer a couple weeks ago. Again, the goal would be, given the funding available for linear paving feet, that we could go further than it currently exists for sure. But if nothing else were possible, the hope would be to repave what's there, redefine it.
So you're not extending what's already there.
Right, the hope would be if we can.
If it was financially possible, I think that it would go a long way to defining it as a road to pave from 15 up past kind of to the end of their parking lot, to the end of that parking, to the side there, to define like, this is the road, here are the lines, here's the dirt where people are parking.
We could go, probably go longer than we have, but we have to think about the, whether the road, because you just can't lay asphalt on the road. You have to.
Right, yeah, you
The
get
dirt
the
base.
prep it and, yeah.
So, I mean, you have to have a really good base to actually, if you want to have it last.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so that the engineer would have to look at all that,
Yeah.
what the cost is,
So this
which
is
means
current
we quit.
apron, or at least current as of the latest
Oh, you can.
map. So it goes,
Think of that.
I mean, as far as aprons, go, it goes a ways in.
That's a long apron.
That looks
Mm-hmm.
further than I recollected, but that's a good rendering.
I mean,
It's hard to
'cause-
see right now with all the mud and schmook out there.
and if we put all our money, I mean, because we're working on the bridge and, it sounds like we really do need to work on the apron. That means like the apron to Nashville would still be, put aside, but
That's a priority.
you think it's a priority?
I do think.
Yeah, I'm so used to it. It doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, we keep trying. If you people,
I know.
if you think of any way, to,
Pray for another rainy summer like we had last year. It seemed to really impact.
oh, that would not be fun. I do know people park at the school though, because we just have to make sure that.
That is the solution to me. That
And
is, that
I
is the
agree.
solution. I know they reached out to the state police and the state police said, oh, we don't want them crossing the road. I don't think the state police that they talked to had a good understanding of the intersection
Right.
because that is the answer.
Right,
Please park at the school.
Yeah.
Especially when the school's not in session, which is probably 85% of the time that they are open and that there's a parking issue.
Well, and they,
That is the issue. There's a button, you can cross the wall.
Right.
You can
It's
cross the road, you
It's a
can walk
nice
down
button.
on the sidewalk. That is the answer. And I don't know, but
The other suggestion was that the Palmers hire somebody,
yeah,
and they said there was a law against that. That was not accurate, but the solution would be to hire someone during those busy times to direct people to do just that during those busy times, but they don't want to do that.
yeah.
I mean, it is costly, but you know, the idea, they could at least put signage that overflow parking go to the school.
Yep. Bernie's got his hands raised.
Hi, folks. Thank you. Could you tell me how much town paid for each sign, the solar array speed signs? Roughly?
I cannot.
If you could email me at some point.
Sure,
Done.
can you send me a reminder, Bernie, I'll get you.
Yeah, because
Yep,
Paula has,
Thank you. So
but they used
there
to.
appear to me not, many times that I go by, they still appear not to be working. I know in the past we've talked about various, at least a couple different reasons why. Could you tell me why they're not working at this point?
They actually are working.
They're
as of
working today. I drove in.
Well,
I was
Okay.
asking my daughter about those signs this just before I came here, Bernie, and she told me that she saw the road crew working. My daughter's only 11. She told me she saw the road crew working on the signs this morning, and then my wife later confirmed that they are working.
They're working today.
Okay, but
What I can tell
clearly,
you,
clearly
ahead.
there's days where they're not working, because we almost every time we go to the grocery store and come back, they're not working. What is the current issue with them? Is it still battery? Is it something else?
it's two things. It's the size of the batteries, which they put larger batteries in today. And it's the size of the solar array on the signs. We've had discussion, particularly for the signs in the village center, about hardwiring them. And trying to arrange that with Green Mountain Power and investigate what the costs associated would be. And the other discussion that we've had is looking to, again, depending on cost and ability to fund, working with a private sign company that would more likely have parts in stock, signs in stock, things that we've had to order on kind of a one-off basis to do all of the sign maintenance in town, crosswalks, speed control signs, anything involving electronic indicator.
Was there no warranty with the signs?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, it sounds like if the array on top isn't enough to keep the batteries charged, that sounds like a functional problem of the device.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I don't know, Bernie. I didn't order.
I mean,
the signs. I didn't order the replacement. I honestly don't know. I could.
It was used, ARPA funding
pretty
was used it, so it's within the last couple of years.
I'm
Yeah.
quite confident that the highway department, upon discovering the charging challenge with those signs, did seek guidance and warranty replacement if it was a parts driven thing. But I think it may have been more a function of not getting signs originally that didn't have the battery capacity or the correct solar array size.
And unfortunately, we had like 72 days in a row of clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably would help.
Yeah, well,
So I was thinking.
but Catherine,
ahead.
addressing the cloud thing, I've got a comment on that because I've heard that addressed earlier. And so we've been watching them in days where they're not working here, they're working in Williston and Richmond. So I just don't understand why we're not pushing back on the company that we purchased them from to get something that works. I mean, anyway, yeah.
It's on the list.
I have definitely heard you, Bernie, and I, as we're kind of reforming the select board after town meeting, it's one of the
Okay.
top members. Find out why they're not working,
Well,
get real ones in there, figure out the warranty,
Right.
like
Right.
all the above. It is well noticed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come back in a month.
Okay.
Second topic is line striping. Thank you for including, as I understand it, at least some money in the budget for line striping. I'd like to comment as a recommendation, if you want to call it, I guess. The contractors, I've talked to a few of the contractors about, after talking with John, he suggested I go do some of the legwork, so I did. And one of the elements that came out of it was that the contractor told, at least one contractor told me that the price per mile is dependent on the total number of miles. So I'd ask you to take that into consideration when you put out an RFQ. Number one, if you're going to line stripe, if that is the case, then meet that threshold potentially by consolidating all the line striping at one time versus going to a contractor 1 month and then 6 months later going back to them again. It might fog lines, sorry. It might save some money. Secondly, I'd offer the suggestion that, again, dependent on what this pricing difference makes and how many miles it takes to make a difference in the price, you might consider, if it's physically possible, to work with Richmond and Underhill and put out an RFQ as a consolidated set of miles. It might end up saving some money. Just again, based on my conversation with the contractor, it sounds like there may be some opportunity there.
Yeah, I think we've already, we had checked into that last year about the point
Yeah, and I had
where we
some-
could get extra, deals.
I had some conversation with our engineer when we were doing, we did a drive around looking at paving projects and talking about line striping, and I'm gonna reconnect with him on estimate as well. In terms of fog lines, I think the other challenge or requirement would be is funding that we don't currently have allocated.
Right.
So that would be a need for some kind of special request or funding support.
Yeah. Any other?
So there's funding for the sidelines of, I'm sorry, for the middle lines, but not for the fog lines.
The state does the middle lines, does the yellow lines. The state's responsible for the yellow lines.
Okay, so did I misunderstand that there is, are you telling me that there is no budget for the fog lines?
There is no budget for fog lines.
So what he means is,
Until-
we did agree when we came up with the budget, when we were working through it, when we made that drastic cut to the road improvement line, whatever the name of that line is. We acknowledged that we left some there so that we could do the narrowed fog lines to your suggestion through the center. What John means is, your suggestion is, in order to get a better rate on it, that we do more. And I think that more is what we don't necessarily have budgeted. So
Okay.
it's cheaper to do 15 miles than it is to do 2, then we'll figure it out when that comes. But
Yeah, there is money for striping. That's for
Yeah.
good. Plus, the
Okay.
town has the equipment now to do, the crosswalks and
little stuff.
the template where you put the mile, 25 miles an hour in the road and things like that. That was ARPA funded for the road crew as well. But they cannot do
All right.
fog line.
Understood. And again, my thought was on the combining of miles is potentially if you join with other towns, you might get I wasn't asking to increase the amount you're doing, but whatever amount is, we should do it at a one-stop shop. So again, you're aware of the pricing potential. Thank you. Last comment is, my concern is when it finally gets done, that the lines are indeed narrowing the roadway. They're not put back where they had previously been. In other words, these, be it a 9-foot width or whatever.
Yeah.
I would say, Claire, I certainly would vote for a 9-foot width, but at a minimum, if they're the same width as they've been in the past on the 25 mile an hour coming out of the 35, then I don't think we've accomplished much. At least in the studies that I've read, you need to narrow that lane down to somewhere near 9 feet to have it be effective, at least the federal research that I've read. So I'll reiterate that I hope that that's a part of the consideration when this work gets done and not forgotten.
I certainly
comes to
remember it being narrowed. I mean,
Yeah.
that was, I
Yeah, it was-
remembered it being narrowed. I don't.
Years
I don't know
ago,
that
it
we
was
had a
narrowed.
number.
It really was narrowed. Yeah, absolutely.
Bernie, I think you're aware there is gonna be two traffic studies conducted this summer, one of which is going to reinvestigate traffic flows and suggested traffic calming mechanisms, both for the village center and for Skunk Hollow. So my guess is that what will come out of that report will be any suggested traffic calming implements that would help with slowing and current concerns around speeding in the center.
Okay, I just hope that eventually the many voices that are speaking of traffic calming concerns, eventually are heard, and that we eventually go beyond reviews and studies and into implementation. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Jim?
I add to what Bernie said and what John said. We've been studying this, well, 45 years, 46 years, that there's a $1,500 simple fix for the area that Bernie's talking about, and it's called 3 stop signs. That
Jim, I'm going to stop you right there. I've talked to the RPC. They said they do not recommend stop signs for the issues you're talking about. That's the current studies.
I would say to you, after the fatality in Williston, the state of Vermont on a state highway put 4 stop signs. They stopped the traffic on Route 2, Williston Center. They've been doing this for a very long time.
Yes.
You ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer. Bottom line is, it's dangerous, and people do not go through stop signs with a $300 fine. Instead of sitting there with a radar gun, you take a picture of them and you got a $300 ticket. So all I'm saying to you is,
It's not
we
been,
paid for traffic studies time and time again. The people who live down there feel threatened. The other thing you can do is a fog line is useless when it's covered with sand or snow.
that's
So you take the grinders and you grind the center line and you grind the fog line. And as soon as you're doing a little bit of this, or you're over the 9 feet, you hear the rumble strips and it
Yes.
slows you down, and then you visually narrow the
Yes.
road. We know what to do. We've had the studies. The kids did all those reports. And we've got money. This is a material priority. The safety and the comfort and the quality of life of the people that live on this road should be a material priority of this select board, and certainly the town plan and all the other stuff. And if we can't come up with a few bucks to make these roads safe, because I watch these large trucks come through there, and when they hit that bump in front of the store, I've seen Ireland's trucks lose the chutes off the back of the truck, and you watch a 6-foot, 100-pound, 150-pound piece of steel slide down the road. It's amazing that nobody's been killed recently, but we have lost people in the past. I think it's a major priority. I think Bernie's patience is because the Jericho Center Preservation Association stuff, we're all concerned about.
absolutely. We understand, Jim. We really are. I mean, this is why there's a new UPWP work going to be done, so that maybe there is money for grinding, things like this. But we were also aware of how much the schools were going up this year and how much we were asking for with the bonds. We did not want to add additional cost to the rest of the taxpayers with the budget. But thank you. We really are going to pay attention. There's no question about that, because it is an issue. Any other comments for public to be heard that is not on the agenda? Yes, sir. Brian?
Hi, good evening. You know that I'm Brian Wolf. I'm a former JDEI member. And I'm here to thank and praise the correct decision of the Jericho Underhill Land Trust, JULT, to withdraw their support for the proposed Brown family roadside marker. Museums are for history. Markers, statues, and monuments are for honoring people. According to the Vermont state criteria for historic preservation. Simply being the first colonizers in an area does not merit such an honor. Also, with this country's long history of racism, especially institutional racism, it's not enough to be neutral. If one is not openly and actively anti-racist, they are simply going along with it. Finally, having my educated opinions validated by JULT, I find it shameful how some people try to sneak this proposal through to you, the select board, and despicable how the efforts of our DEI committee on this matter were maligned and misrepresented. It's sad how some people are so insecure in their own lives and so desperate to hang on to some imagined past of white victimhood and their idealized version of white supremacist history that they are willing to lie and slander others for speaking truth to those fallacies.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Any other comments, public to be heard, that is
Wait.
not on the agenda?
Wayne Ellis says.
Wayne Ellis, okay.
Wayne, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, I would like to totally repudiate what this guy just said. I am part Native American from Western New York. I never used this to get ahead in my life. I earned everything. And if anyone, I thought this guy was a history teacher. Okay. Your assignment, sir, is to read a book called Bloody Mohawk. Okay. It's about the area I come from, the Allegheny Plateau where the Iroquois live. And how, but listen, the point is that the Brown family were kidnapped and held up in Montreal. Okay. Now, at that time, Abenakis, Mohawks, they had a choice to kidnap you and hold you for ransom, or they had a choice to kill you. And so the fact is, there's a history story here that is more interesting than fiction, that the Abenakis, who happen to have, many of them happen to have been Catholics, brought these people up instead of killing them. They could have easily brought their scalps. So I'm just telling you, learn some history before you just speak extemporaneously like that. Your facts are absolutely wrong. And the fact that the Brown Memorial has been removed from Browns River is something you should hang your head in shame on, because the Abenaki should be celebrated that they brought these people as hostages and didn't just bring their scalps. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. That's interesting. Bunch of things you learn. Or hear. All righty. Any more public to be heard?
I have one more thing to say on a different topic.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, thank you. So anyways, we've changed how we do our government, okay? And with change comes a lot of opportunity, but also dangers. And there was some discussion about a hybrid meeting for in January that would discuss budget issues and that you all would hear, and then there would be votes on these things. Am I understanding that correct?
The vote, if there's any votes, it is non-binding because there can only be one vote on the budget, and that will be on the Australian paper. But you can, the idea is that people want to get together and talk about it and maybe have a sense of the folks that are there in terms of what we could tweak how they could tweak the budget. But it would be a non-binding vote.
Okay, so that's all well good then. So there would be people calling in, I assume, just like now.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. That's why they wanted hybrid, so that you could do exactly what you're doing right now.
Okay, so I just have one or two questions here. So one would be, right now, I'm assuming that only Jericho voters are calling into this meeting. Is that true?
So before we get to looking to this particular
Whoops.
board, we have no idea how that meeting could even possibly work.
Yeah.
We're committed to it because we heard from the citizens,
But
but we are probably I personally feel the least educated on how exactly we would go about creating one of those. So
Okay, so I
I'm
can
sure that
summarize.
Catherine, who has been
Okay,
here much longer than we do, has
All
an
right,
idea how it
let
could
me-
work. But I just don't want you to, I don't
All
want
right,
anyone
thanks,
to
thanks, Eric. Okay,
It'll-
Eric, I can
you'll
finish
know-
this in 15 seconds. Okay,
Okay.
there's things to be concerned about. One is voter intimidation suppression. Are outsiders able to call into the meeting? Next one
probably
is.
not.
Okay, good, perfect. Next is voter fraud. How do we ensure that our voter rolls are cleansed and up to date every year? So that you can, and then the third is how do you treat provisional ballots? So in New Hampshire, if I live in Massachusetts, I can move to Nashua, rent a hotel room, vote in the election.
Wayne,
You can answer that. You've been. on
Wait,
the
yeah, I mean,
Board of-
that,
Board of-
I've been a justice of the peace for 30 years here in Jericho, and I have absolute complete faith in our voter rolls and in our tracking of all ballots, both mail in and done here at town hall and done at the polling places. So, and I also think that the grain size of the conversation right now is out of whack with where this conversation is in terms of what this meeting is going to look like and what the format will be. So it just
Okay,
feels like
So
not the
let me
right.
just, okay, so let me
It
just
is a
summarize.
non-binding, the vote, the hybrid meeting is non-binding, so it
Okay.
doesn't, it
But
doesn't matter.
just
The real
so
vote
you
is
understand,
Australian.
but just remember, 100 people changed how 4,400 people are going to treat their voting, okay? You need very small numbers. So that means that our voter rolls and who gets into these meetings has to be assiduously controlled, okay?
Which it is.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. And Peter, by the way, I've forgiven you for leaving the Affordable Housing Committee and thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, so I'm done. I don't want to take up any more time.
Thank you. Can I have my piece of paper that's flying? Thank you. All right, if there are no more public to be heard, we move on to the reorganization. That means we elect the chair, we set our meeting day for the upcoming year, and we also set parameters of how we're going to run our meetings. So
Awesome.
we get.
So I think to start, we should probably nominate a chair. And for that, I would like to nominate Catherine McMains to be select board chair.
I would second that. Sorry, I've got to, it's all new.
Thank you.
Assuming you're willing. If you're unwilling, then I'd be willing to change it, but.
But, well, one more year. I mean, there's a lot to be done yet, and I do want to see what happens with some of the big projects. I really do. I think it's so important. So thank you for your support. I appreciate that. And so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your willingness.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is the meetings will continue to be on Thursday nights at 6:30 on the first and third Thursdays.
Well, I actually have I have a list of things that I
Oh,
wanted to.
okay, go for it
Yeah,
then.
Okay. So first, this is something that we probably should have done when hybrid kind of came out. And I've been meaning to make this change, and then I realized that this meeting here is the time to do it. This is sort of a technical, maybe a little nerdy one, but I would like to propose that from here on out, we do not accept questions from the chat of the hybrid meeting. And that we reserve the chat for things like, hey, we can't hear you. Hey, I can't figure out how to raise my hand. Hey, I can't come off mute. Utilize the chat for those types of things. Technical issues, or if you truly can't come off mute to ask your question, then we could, make an exception. But it gets very distracting when I'm trying to listen to somebody that's actually in the room or somebody that's actually speaking. I have whatever you call the squirrel syndrome. Like as soon as I see it, my brain's over there. So I would like to propose to the board if you guys are okay with setting that rule.
I think it's great because a lot of the bigger meetings that I go to, the chat is reserved for technical issues.
And I would actually, yeah, I'm supportive of that. And I think that a further step would be to, and I think this can be done in Zoom, to set up the chat so that when somebody asks a question, it doesn't pop up on the public screen, that messages only go to, for example, the two of you, who are the people who are driving the show. And that's when someone says, I can't hear you, and you guys see it, and it's that, and the chat is closed and only useful for those things, but maybe that's a
The
step
way
too
that
far.
that may not, I like that idea if we can pull it off. It
I
may
do
not
too.
work with the way that we're sharing, because he's just doing a 1-for-1.
Oh, okay.
So because that's just his.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
So,
gotcha. Okay,
but,
okay.
But yeah. Okay, so great. I'm glad you're in agreement with that. The next one's a little bigger. And this is a tough one. But we need to start to limit the amount of public input into our meetings. I know that's bold, and you know, the select board meetings. Well, here's what I'm terrible to just read, but right now, one thing I hear about from a lot of people is that we need to increase our governmental capacity. The only place that real things happen are here in this meeting. So when I hear about we need to expand our capability, our capacity, our ability to get things done, the decisions get made here. And so to me, getting through select board agenda items or getting through them quicker so that we can fit more of them in is how we get more things moved through. And the only way to do that is to reduce the amount of time that we offer to the public. And I don't say that lightly. I know Catherine has been really good about encouraging public input. I want public input. I want people to be here. So I don't know the best way to do it. I have some ideas, but I do want to spend a little bit of time today talking about how we could do that. So I talked to two different people that one was currently on a select board and one was previously on a select board, two different towns. And I just broached this subject and I didn't suggest anything, and they both told me the exact same line. And so I thought it was worth sharing here. And that line is, the select board meeting is in the public. It is not for the public. We are your elected officials and we are the ones that make the decision. I personally find that a little harsh because I kind of need to hear from the public
Yeah,
on certain
I've always
things.
treated that as the actual public hearings. You know, that's really, or actually our work sessions are, for us, but not for the public, because they could come and listen to us when we're doing our work sessions. But I know other towns do that, where their public only has a little amount of speaking at the beginning, like public to be heard, but it's not on the agenda. And then the select board does all its business, and then the public gets a little bit of time at the very end, just to say things, but they don't influence the decision at all. And I think that's the little harsh part.
That does feel a little harsh, but we're one of the few towns that doesn't do that. And I was strongly suggested by these other select boards. So I don't know that I have an answer that's going to work for everybody, but I have a couple ideas and I'm open to any of your ideas. So here's what I have. Set time limits for each agenda item. I have seen that on other towns. So you say, okay, this is why I need the paper. Whatever, select board
Reorganization done by
15
7:10,
minutes.
right?
It's done, you set a time, and so that can kind of keep you moving, so we can get through these things. So that's one idea. Another one is time limits for each participant for each agenda item. Maybe like this is our agenda item, you get 1 minute max kind of thing. That's an idea, and we can do any or none of these. I don't care. I want us to start thinking about these. Same thing that Catherine mentioned, do a public to be heard, 15 minutes, and then a public comment section at the end, 15 minutes. The other thing I thought about is like, we could sort of set up different rules for different agenda items. And so when I think about, when I think about like when we talked about the path, the
Oh,
sidewalk
yeah,
path at the last.
that's really a public,
That one I absolutely wanted to hear, like, for me, that could have been and maybe we still do it by setting the time.
yeah, because those are actually meant for the public, because,
Right.
and I'm blanking on the name, but it's really the public discourse for those projects. When you have the engineer come in and describe it, that's really is for the public.
Right. So we could tailor it by either by taking that time frame and just say, all right, we're gonna be talking about the sidewalk path, we've got 3 proposals, we got an hour and a half. We could do it we could tailor it that way as we were building the agenda. And then, you know, and then even on those, we do have to limit. And again, I'm not saying this because I don't want public input. It's because I've had the conversation about we need a 5-person board probably 1,000 times since I've been on the board, and I still don't know where I land on it. But the reason everybody gives to it is to be able to get more done. And the thing I keep coming back to is the place that things really get done are here. I understand if you had another person, you can go work with the teams a little bit and whatever, but you've still got to bring whatever you did out there. You got to bring it back here, make a decision, vote on it, and get through it. And so I think finding a way to make our meetings more efficient, and I don't always love getting home at 11:30. So those are my 4 ideas. I am open if you have other ideas of how to get more things in the agenda.
You have comments to start with? Then I'll
Yeah,
say a
I
few
mean-
things. Go right ahead.
Sure. I think that I like the idea of the agenda being timed and having markers to hit, just so we're like, hey, it's 7:15 and we're supposed to be done with this, just to sort of refocus things. I also, probably my first unpopular thing I'll say here as a select board member, I also like the idea of limiting the time of comments, and and I'm not sure that it's 15 minutes here and then 15 minutes at the end, but if we do allow sort of comments throughout, that there is like a timer and like, okay, you've got 2 minutes or you've got 1 minute. And I think that will focus the mind of the speakers. And I mean, when I'm on that end, I don't feel when I'm sitting there talking to you guys and about whatever, I never felt any pressure, like, okay, I gotta get it right to the point. I don't want to tell them and move on. You feel like you can just sort of
Yeah,
talk,
like you said,
you know?
I was too generous.
So I think just focus, just to focus the comments and get more comments in without walking out of here at 11:30 at night.
Yeah, that was kind of spooky the last time. It was snowing and 11:30, driving down these back roads.
What were your other, you said you had 4 things, Eric?
Those are, yeah,
I think,
I had 5 bullets.
Well-
Set time limits for each agenda, for each participant.
I think we could try setting markers for items, because sometimes the meetings are too long. I mean, because we really need, like the sidewalk meeting, we really should have taken some of the things off the agenda, because that really was a very important discussion, because
Right.
it impacts a lot of people. You know, like some of them impacted 50 people.
Right, and on that one, like, I heard great comments that I needed to hear. I'm glad that I heard, but some of these, like, for example, if we had like 16 people with their hand raised telling us how to run our meeting, I'd be like, maybe we don't need to call on all 16 people telling us how to run our, you know what I mean? So like some of them I don't really, you know, we don't necessarily want the input, and other times we do need it, and it's somewhere in between.
You know, to start with, I would go along with setting the time markers for agendas and see, you know, if we can't figure out how long, because sometimes, you know, we're not sure how long an item would be. I also, because I think people still need a chance to talk, I would get a timer and put 3 minutes on it.
Okay. I'm fine with trying both of those. I'm just happy to acknowledge it. And I want people to know, like, I'm not trying to shut down democracy or any of that kind of stuff, but like, we have a lot to do, and we frequently hear that we're not getting enough done. And the way to do it is here at this meeting.
That's right.
So that's, and I know, I understood it took me 3 years to learn that, so again, I can't use the newbie one anymore. We got Pete here. I just read it again, so I can't like pretend to be the new guy. And then the last suggestion I have, and I'm just throwing it out there, I do not care either way. We could potentially move this to 6. If that works for other people. If it doesn't work, that's fine. I'm fine with 6:30.
I was gonna advocate for 7, so.
It used to be 7.
I know. That's why I was gonna advocate for that, but 6:30 is, it makes it too bang for me getting home from school and then family and over here.
All right, well, no, I was just throwing that out if it happened to work better for people, but
No,
6:30 is fine.
I'm more flexible than most, but you know, that 6 is still early. There's so much to do ahead of time. All right, so we have to officially set the rules of procedure for our meetings tonight. Right now.
So with that comment, I have a question. Let's say the timer thing doesn't work. Do we have an opportunity later in the year to try something else? Or does this lock us into exactly how we run the meetings for the next year?
We probably have the opportunity to change, because in the past, the default has always been, if, you know, generally it's my fault. I like people talk, you know, because it's a public meeting. Because I think it's for the.
It's a meeting in the public.
It's meeting, yeah, except the public, I think because we're the elected officials responsible to them, I've had every study that, about in the public for the, and it's for the public, but I like to have it for the public as much as anything. But it has gotten to, and so we would, depending on how many people were here, we would not limit it until like the street meeting where there's a lot of people.
Till the what?
The reading of the sidewalks and stuff like that, where you have a lot of,
Oh,
like a lot of people. So otherwise our default was we let people talk, but if there's a lot of people, we try to limit. Now what we're gonna do is
Flip
reverse
flop
that.
that, right.
So that the default is if there's nobody here, we might let somebody talk longer than 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever it is.
Or if there's somebody it's a big meeting, but somebody has has some expert knowledge or something, they need more time because of whatever
Exactly.
kind of at the discretion of the chair, whatever it is, 1 or 2 or 3 minutes is the limit. And the chair has the discretion to waive that entirely or waive that for
Right.
individuals at their discretion.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so do you need a motion that lays out the rules of procedure? Do I have to
We-
include the Zoom chat thing?
Basically, I don't think it's necessary to make a motion of it. We just need to have it laid out what our rules going forward are.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work, then we have to go to something else, but you're right, I mean, sometimes meetings have gotten longer than they needed to be, but, so. We will start.
So should we- so should
Everybody's
we-
Intentions are good, I get it, but
So I'd rather not lay that out word for word right now by committee. I would love it if John or Paul or someone could take these ideas from the tape and just say like, yep, okay, so here's what they talked about. Here's the plan as a paper document, as a document, and then that's what it is.
okay, so I think for now, we can say
Chat.
first and third Thursdays at 6:30 PM.
Mhm.
We're gonna limit the Zoom chat to technical questions only. Or if you really truly can't get off mute. And we will put time.
Put time markers on the agenda.
Items.
And they have to be reasonable, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, it might be half an hour, might be 3 minutes.
There might be
Yeah.
more than 5
It
minutes.
entirely
Yeah.
depends on what the topic is.
Exactly.
Quick comment about that. My preference would be that you make those time allocations and Paulette and I don't. I would feel terrible being the person responsible for miscalculating or having.
Well, I think we do it together. I think there might be an agenda item that you throw on
Someone
there.
Suggest it.
Yeah,
and
you
then
can like,
do
hey,
it.
you know what, we're gonna look at the truck today. I think we need probably about 25 minutes.
Right.
for that. And then we might say, actually, I got a bunch to say on that. We'll probably, need I think as we build the agenda, I feel like it will make that piece a little more complicated, but I'm hoping it makes the meetings go.
That
smoother.
works for me.
And I think that we're not wedded to that if we
Right.
get to 7:30 and this conversation is still going on and it's rich and people are talking, we need to hey, it's 7:30. I think it's important to keep talking. Let's try and wrap this up in the next 10 minutes, which is fine.
Yeah.
But to have a sense of the plan was to be done by
Yeah.
9 o'clock and we're deciding to miss that target because we're extending something.
Yes, sounds good. I think that will help.
Okay, the rest of it?
You're gonna take any public feedback?
No, finish the rest of the official things because like with.
Oh, sorry. So
Timing and,
so the timing, and was there anything else I needed to add?
I think,
We've mentioned 1 minute, 2 minutes and 3 minutes for the length of time for speakers.
I think 3.
She's so nice.
I know.
So much nicer than I am.
But if you have, if you think 2 is better, then I don't know, I mean.
Let's do 3 and see if we're like, wow, it's still
Too much.
It's still too much. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
What I think is important I think what's good about it is that it does focus the speaker.
And to go, the segue, the other part of that is that no person gets to say a second time.
Well,
until
everyone's
Everybody
spoken.
has had their first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like that, is it Michael, is it Mike Weinberg?
Weinberg.
Yeah.
He doesn't let people say the same thing twice.
No,
I remember
no.
being at one of those meetings and I'm like, I want a point, and he's like, I don't want to hear a point that's already been made. And I'm like,
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I want to say
exactly.
it again.
And that's particularly important if somebody wants to speak a second time, that if this something new?
Yeah, and that we can do as a board.
Feel
Yeah.
that out. Yeah.
Okay, is that good? I listed out the rules.
Yeah. That's good.
You feel like you've got enough, John?
Yeah. I
Okay.
can regurgitate them.
All right.
I'd like to
Oh.
offer to you the most important goal I think that you could invoke is having your paid presenters be prepared and to put the information that they're going to present out. I've listened to all this stuff for years. And one of the few people that I can remember was Jennifer Murray. She had her vendors do the presentation so that they came prepared, they had the answers, and if there was controversial issues, particularly if you're talking about cutting up somebody's yard, you shouldn't be talking in this meeting without that person having been talked to by the paid vendor and put a memo in front of you. So I watch all the time and the dedication and the service that you people put in here. Your vendors are not doing their job. And that's why the public comes in here, because the people who are getting paid are not doing their job. They're running the routines on you. And the only time we get to say anything is when you get to hear from the public. So you're not getting good work done. And I pay people a lot of money every year. And most of the people that I see would get canned if they were working for a private person. So I watched Jennifer hold that last check and not pay them until their work not done. And then Todd would pay them anyway. Because we're paying people a lot of money. And if you think about that whole sidewalk study, they never set the scope correctly. They changed it. It was all
I
mixed
think
up.
that's a
Let it
little
go.
off target right now. Thank
If you
you.
want to get a lot done,
Thank
change how you treat the vendors and make sure their presentation is in writing, available, and before they come, and that they're prepared. And then these meetings will go a lot faster and you won't have all that stuff. Because what did you actually end up as a work product from the sidewalk conversation?
Point taken. I actually like that suggestion.
Good.
Most of it.
Most of it.
Most of it.
Most of it. Thank you. That's enough. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, we got a meeting now. Now we
Yeah.
know how to run it.
Yeah, that's right. Now it's our Winooski Valley Park District folks with our Jericho resident Sonia.
I sure hope you guys are prepared.
You got 2 minutes. I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
That was very good.
Put together agendas every month. One thing I do is I need a lot of time, so it feels like we're doing great.
Right. Way ahead of our mark.
Everybody knows
Yeah.
this. We're ahead of them.
I get to chair and try to keep. the discussion. It's not easy.
From drifting, yeah.
Discussion creep is a thing.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I will keep this, I'll keep this to 10 minutes.
Sounds good.
And
That was a nice report.
thanks. There is a report good. I actually appreciate everything I just heard. It's fast. You guys must be exhausted. Really, I can tell. So, we have not been in this room for what was an annual presentation for, I think, 5 years.
Nick, can you just introduce yourself to the record?
Nick Warner, I'm the executive director of the Winooski Valley Park District. And
Sonia Schuyler, I'm Jericho's representative to the Park District, and I currently chair the board.
Lauren Chakotay, our operations managers, listening in and hopefully join in as well. We typically have done an annual visit to you folks so we can keep the relationship strong, and also to thank you for supporting, give you just a broad update of what's going on. It's flooding again today. Just want to.
Oh, I wondered about that. So where is it flooding? Down in the lower Winooski, down by the.
Yeah, down, it's just over top of the fields, just about an hour and a half ago down in Now Homestead.
I wonder about that.
I'm sure Woodside is also flooded. But, we find ourselves with these changes in a position of a different kind of importance beyond passive recreation and preservation of scenic vistas and habitats, in that we own quite a bit of wetlands and floodplain forests. And frankly, we're, as an organization, leaning into that role as a manager of these types of properties. We are, I just go broader brush for folks who are not familiar with us, we are an incorporated municipality, we've been around since 1972. I was, we have 8-member towns, including our newest member, Essex Junction. So it was really fascinating to go through the whole process of transition between Essex and Essex Junction, we're both members. We have, Jericho's been a member of Lease since the beginning. 76.
Don't quote me, I have to go.
76 sounds like a long time anyway.
It's a long time, but Jericho wasn't the initial.
You know, the dynamic is that these 8 towns collectively own the 18 parks and 1,730 some acres that we're managing. We're growing incrementally. We've got a park in Williston that is becoming a lot closer to fruition, and that we've been negotiating an access with Global Foundries, and they're actually at the point now we're exchanging paperwork between the owners. The new 29-acre park.
Oh, wow.
Right off of 2A that would service 3 already bustling residential neighborhoods. So we're pretty thrilled about that. A lot has happened since we've been in this room. We celebrated our 50th anniversary as an organization. Maybe a year late. But it was a great gathering, and it just reminded us collectively of our shared values around the work we do. We have also a number of large capital projects going on. One being we own Ethan Allen Homestead. We have a lease and partnership with Ethan Allen Homestead Museum, and also Allen Bailey, which is a confederation of Abenaki tribes that rents space down there as well. We're working. We've got some grant money to rebuild the roof of the museum building down there, and also the historic Allen House, which many of you may have come and visited. We also have, at any given time, 5 or 6 projects going on in our parks. Going back to the flooding, that was, as a municipality, of course, we went right to become eligible for FEMA. We did all the evaluations and so forth. And because of the way we're set up, we don't manage ball fields with all our buildings out of floodplain and so forth. Our total losses were less than $30,000. The July flood, and then there was some more in the later flood, which we got most of our reimbursement through passive, which is the municipal insurer that we use. We also learn every time we go through a flood in terms of having our structures be more resilient. Another really interesting impact of COVID is the increased use in our parks is not abated. Literally the day after the governor issued the stay-at-home order, all our parking lots filled up. We were overrun. We had to hire extra security in Colchester Pine. And the initial bump abated, but overall the usage of our parks is way up. And you're going to ask me, do you have numbers? The answer is no. We do not charge. We have 3 full-time staff, and we do not charge at our gates. We have no way of tracking it, but based on what we see in parking lots, it's really obvious impact on the lands. We're thrilled that people are, people who discovered the parks during COVID are still coming, and we still have a lot more new people coming in. Our challenges are, over time, we're a totally unique organization in that most districts like us across the country are funded through very sort of quietly applied county taxes. And in Vermont, that essentially doesn't exist, and thus our reliance on a system where our municipalities provide about 80% of our operating budget, which is the annual dues we supply. Those dues are calculated through a mathematical formula that takes population grand list into account, and thus you are at the low end of the scale and Burlington's at the high end of the scale. The system seems to be holding up, but it's clear to us that over time we're going to need to find other ways to bring money into the system to match the support. We do that in spades through projects and grantsmanship, but on an operating level, we're solid, we're stable, but we want to be able to grow, especially in the face of, I think, really important priorities in terms of land protection over the next decade. We're going to deal more effectively with flooding and climate change issues. In terms of the park right here, Old Mills are really, it's there's so much going on there. It's
Such a cute little park.
it was a cute little park, but I mean, just, ecologically and
Yeah.
physically,
Yeah.
you got a perched wetland that drains down into the wetland.
Yeah.
Comes in and watches out the culvert every year. And,
Yeah.
we get all kinds of blowdowns. We've got, we had some issues with, kids partying and spray painting. So, but our crew and our really superb park superintendent, Tim Larned, who was celebrating his 23rd year with us. We've been able to deal with those issues, and there's been a pretty good communication on back and forth. And we also are, a big part of our model is being wired in with the municipal world and also being wired in with the nonprofit and trust world. So we work pretty extensively with the HCB, the Land Trust, Lake Champlain Land Trust, and so forth. And they hold the easements that permanently preserve the land we manage. And so in short, that's the system. So we really just wanted to come in here and reconnect in a way that we haven't for a while. The last time I was on the phone, we were talking about a trail. That John was part of that meeting.
That's right.
And I think, we think that was 5 years,
Yeah, that's probably a correct estimate.
although it suffered from the COVID time.
Right.
Exactly.
But we would like to, with your permission, get back into the pattern of coming in at least once a year and just, you're probably going to throw some questions at us. But, we're set up to work for you, and for our member towns, and, it's been a very busy few years. In a good way.
Yeah, it really has. I think COVID made a lot more people just get outside,
Right.
and and they're staying,
And it's continued, right?
Absolutely.
which is good. Well, it was, thank you for the presentation, and do you have any questions?
I didn't really have any questions. I didn't have,
I,
I wasn't sure if,
it's this
Yeah.
packet.
no, I have that packet. What I wasn't sure is the budget request, does it match what's on the budget that
Yes.
we had? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
That was
it
my
did.
only question. And
Okay.
I could have looked that up, but I,
Paul and I had the oh no moment today too.
yeah. I would have hated to put that in front of the voters and then be like, guess what? Guess what? Yeah, so.
No,
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it does increase, but as you said, there's maintenance issues, particularly this past year with the, 262-mile-an-hour winds that, that have come through Jericho and things like that, and as well as
It's been
flooding.
astonishing. It's just been astonishing the changes. And, watching the rapidity of the river rise today, when I got to work, it was 1.5 below our footbridge.
Yeah.
In front, when I left, it was overtopped.
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
I live on the Winooski,
Okay, so.
basically, and that I'm
Yeah.
far enough out that it's so far, knock on
Yeah.
wood, never been an issue, but like I can see it coming up the field.
I think what's, a couple of things, I won't go too deep into this, what's really encouraging to me is there's finally talk about providing specific credit for the management and ownership of wetlands and floodplains, both at the state and national level, not so much at the state level, sort of more at the national level. An acknowledgement that it actually has a economic and social value that you can quantify. And that's kind of a new science. We've had general numbers about 1 million gallons of water being filtered, per acre and so forth, but there's no basis behind that except for guesswork. And I think what's just looking forward a few years from now, so I'd like to think that it'll position us in a much better spot in terms of being able to access resources, both for acquisition and operations.
Well, I mean, just this past year's flooding and with the governor's thing, I mean, you have to, not just the Winooski Valley, but all through the state, that's a very important thing, is the management of wetlands and making sure that they actually restore a lot of the wetlands to protect flooding downstream.
You have a system right here, which is,
Yeah.
it's all part of the games. And just, the traditional question I used to get asked here is, what is the culvert? I'm an asset here. But we tried a million different things. It's the size of the culvert, it's just the sheer volume of water that comes off that bridge wetland. It's astonishing.
So every year, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty much anything.
Any other questions?
No?
Well, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
We appreciate that.
Under 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well done.
Well,
Thank you. Yeah, you too. Let's get in touch. Yeah, will do. Stay on 10 point. Yes, I will.
yeah, because that land is still there looking for trash.
I want to stay in.
All right, now we have the Jericho Town Library Grants and Initiatives updates.
We are here today because I'm not asking for anything that's new, but we are part of applying for a grant from ARPA funds through the state going to libraries,
And who are you again?
Jericho Town Library Board.
Wait, his name.
Your name?
Jeff York.
I know it, but they don't necessarily know.
So how much are you applying for?
The grant would be for the entire amount, other than what we have raised, the 100,000 to you, and I think there was another grant that got increased to $10,000.
How much?
The rest, 10,000.
Okay,
So the grant application will be for about 1.5 million.
whoa.
So we also know that we might not have the full thing funded, so we're working with Vermont Integrated Architecture, which drew up the original plans. So they've given us the updated cost estimates from a decade ago, but they're also working now to give us estimates for a more phased model or like parts of the project as well as the full thing. So we're hoping that we'll have the entire grant funded, which would allow us to do all of the things that we've talked about as recently as the fall, but going back for 10 years.
So at least you do have a plan B then, because, because, yeah,
Well,
you said,
we're working with our architect. We'll be looking at this grant and information from this grant around June. And then if that doesn't work or works to a different number, then we'll revise our plans to what we need and see. But we're feeling optimistic about this grant based on the way it came distributed across the state. So we think we're in a good position.
So you think you're gonna get over $1 million from the grant and
Yes.
and that the match would be included in what you have already with the 100 that we
Yes.
gave you? Wow.
I know, there's potential for the MERP grant as well for you, with the furnace out, switch out.
Yeah, we also have 4 more grants on the horizon that we're applying to. This one is the biggest by far, but we might.
And the reason we're here today is because we need, so part of the grant application is to make sure that we're not renegade. Make sure that we're not applying for money that you're not aware of, or applying, really starting a project that you're not aware of.
Yeah, that would be a real surprise.
apparently that's happened.
Because that's a big project.
We've already met, they wanted a signed letter, and we need this, we have a letter that we've given you that Catherine has nicely addressed, and.
Yeah, and then you're asking that this be put on town, letterhead, and then we sign that one.
We sign that,
Yeah.
but we need it signed in the next few days.
Okay. Because, this is,
Doesn't-
not quite.
asking for anything other
Yeah.
than.
It's just saying, yes, we know about
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So does that require all board or just the chair?
I would think just the chair,
That's the chair.
on a legal document, it's just an acknowledgement
Yeah.
that the board's aware.
So do we need a motion or is that just something you're gonna sign based on our, like, cause we,
Oh, no, you should motion.
okay.
Because that way it's official. We have a question.
Just a question, Jeff.
Oh, we need to have your name for the record, please.
Brian Stevens. And Jeff, could you make a copy of the actual grant application for us? Just to be sure that there are no other liabilities or contingencies that we could be responsible for in the case of the acceptance of the grant. So just a copy would be great. Thanks.
Sure, Brian.
I'll make a motion to approve the grant request from the JTL for the Vermont Libraries grant application.
Second,
All those in favor say aye, or,
Aye.
raise your hand. Aye. So the RPC raises their hand. I just had a long meeting with the RPC last night. It's been a long week. I think I'm losing
Thank you.
it.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I swear. I'm getting,
Thank you both.
thank you. Thank you for your work. All right.
Be in touch.
Now, this is an interesting one. Mob's Farm Horse Trailer and School Bus Parking Lot Project, from
Terry Hook here.
Terry Hook.
Have a few.
Terry, give me a sec while I
Sure.
find your slides to share.
Gary, I was trying to talk my daughter into coming, you know, but I'm like, look at the cool stuff we're gonna talk about tonight. And I'm like, well, the only one you might be interested in is horse trailer.
Well, I like, kind of like, Jeff was about not going renegade, this is a project to be aware of. I think we're not really asking for much of anything tonight. It's basically at the very bottom, you know, if you have objections to this concept, and we do require at least some additional minor effort on the part of the Tyler Billington to flesh it out. So let me start with, so we were approached last year by the Vermont Horse Council about providing improved parking for horse trailers. Basically, you go into that Brown's Trace lot and you can't turn around, you gotta back out. Right?
Oh, that's tough, yeah.
And that's the first problematic with a trailer. It's also problematic with a school bus or any other kind of bus. So she came up, she said, what would you think about, you know, providing improved parking specific for trailers and large vehicles, if you will. And she came offering money, so to speak, or hoping to offer money. So this is a good thing, you know, they would love to drive through the grants. But of course, this is our property, not the Vermont Horse Council property, so it needs to be something that we want to do collectively and that the town supports, you know. There's not a matching requirement for the grant that they're hoping to get, but clearly you need to support signature in the same sense that the library was just here. So the committee, we talked about this with the committee over the past year, and it's basically, you know, good response. Yeah, that'd be nice, you know, we could use extra parking. If people using the sledding hill is absolutely packed.
Oh, that's great.
Someone said, oh, they were parked all the way up and down the access road, which I confess, but the sledding hill, if we have snow, is popular. So some additional parking would be useful for lots of reasons, horse trailers, school buses, and people. So we did have met with Tyler on site and reviewed a little bit of what the structure would look like, walked it, and the horse council people also were there. The glitch we've hit is that pop ahead a couple of pages. This is marginal to a wetland.
Oh,
Keep going down one more, I guess, here. And here I've tried to picture, I pulled the map, the sketch plan, and this is just a sketch. It looks, but it needs to look something like that. But on the right is the mapped wetland from the ANR. And Tyler said right away, this could be a wetland, needs to be looked at, you know, to access across it or would mitigate. I don't know what would happen, but that's an important thing. It could be a major roadblock. Unintended, I suppose. So you can see that, you know, it actually crosses. I don't know. I'm not sure how this could be a contiguous wetland since it's intersecting.
Is it the lower green blob we're talking about?
Well, there's a lower green blob, and there's that wider.
Yep.
Pale blob.
Yep.
Which is maybe a buffer zone. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I started to look at those layers. I thought, the point is not for me to do the wetland engineering, but Tyler's point is that he needs somebody to look at it.
Say yes or no.
And so, I should roll back to the original.
And Terry, just to let you know, the consultant for the construction of the town maintenance facility, he looked into wetland permitting requirements, which includes the totality of the parcel that's owned by the town. So I am going to be in contact with him, and I can ask.
There could be some synergy there.
What his impression is in regard to permitting requirements.
Okay,
And
excellent.
and I can put you in contact with him.
Because I think you scroll down back again to the first agenda here, that basically, you know, we kind of need Tyler's input to even get an estimate as to even get the number for the wetland consultancy, if it's even necessary, right? So I think what I really two purposes in coming here. One is to not be renegade, you know, and so you know this is on our list, and you have an opportunity to object or modify, and also, I guess, to ask for more of Tyler's involvement to even do the next sizing. Is that fair to say, John? Because you were involved originally, lining him up and.
Yeah, I mean, I think the original ask was for a couple hours of his paid time as an engineering consultant, and what I'm hearing you request is.
$1,500 worth of.
Well, no, this is, he says he needs the wetland consultant.
Oh, that was for
Might be $1,500, but he's not sure of that. He said that's his ballpark estimate. So, I think. We're asking for his time to determine a better estimate for the, wetland consultant, or if even that's necessary, if he can talk to the other guy.
So I think. Process wise, where I think it makes sense to go is. Talking with Matt and figuring out what his research indicated.
Okay.
In regard to wetland permitting need, if any. And then, if it is determined that there is a wetland. Study needed or an engineer, to come in. To look at permitting requirements, it would probably make sense to get. A proposal or, an estimate of cost from an engineering, firm. The Conservation Commission, as you may know, they've been working with Arrowhead Consulting in Huntington. To do wetland assessment and, they did the natural resource overlay work. I happen to know Aaron and his wife Dory personally. But again, it kind of depends, the degree, the cost is what would. You'd have to come back to the select board as.
Yeah, you know,
Right. We can kind of drive this, but I feel like it's more like should be in the hands of the expert who I think now I'm looking at Tyler as the guy to drive it, but that's it. He costs money, his time.
Sure, and that was really the point that I was trying to drive home at some point. The select board will need to know what the ask is.
right.
Financially, if there's further support in regard to Tyler's additional time. Or certainly if there was a request for funding support for a permitting evaluation.
And then they have to go through the process because it's a driveway and might even require the DRB, you know, to, you know.
Right, there'll be a zoning.
Yeah,
I imagine.
you'd want to get Chris involved.
Right. There are a lot of things to do. I think Tyler's point was this wetland could be a absolute
Showstopper.
showstopper. of some
Wow.
sort. I don't know. I know it with that. That's what he said, and that's what I think, you know, before taking it.
Before going any farther,
Yeah, you
get over
really-
that hurdle to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important thing to consider, absolutely.
I have one, probably a dumb question, but I'm gonna ask it just in case, we're okay because we preserved this land, like this isn't gonna violate that whole, like, we preserved and said we aren't gonna do any development, that's not
I
gonna
think
violate
we
that.
have to discuss it with the land trust and say, this is an enhancement to, you're right. I mean, we don't. They don't own the land, but they have right of veto. I can't imagine.
But is,
I imagine improving access would be a positive.
Right,
I imagine it's
right.
Probably fine, but let's.
But we are
make
building
sure-
something on
Right.
protected land.
Can't
Right.
pay the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
plus, you know, I mean, the parking lot is already a function, I mean, it's there.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, so you're just, as you said, enhancing what is functionally there.
Correct. We're not adding a parking lot, we're modifying it, changing the sign.
You know, and as I recall from all the mediation years ago, that there is the opportunity, you know, before it became land trust protected. That there was, you know, the final mediated was that there was the potential to increase the parking lot as needed.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that was the final,
We have a number of potential hurdles to get through, probably none of which anybody, the wetland being the one where it's kind of the objective on the ground, either is or isn't an issue. So the other things are negotiable or probably reviewed positively, so. I think, Well, in terms of, I mean, maybe just one more coil up, in terms of the granting, so there's this schedule, these DHC people are optimistic about a $50,000
Wow.
VOREC grant, that's the minimum grant. Now,
Right.
I don't know that that's, you know, they're optimistic. That's a statewide organization, Vermont Horse Council. But the purpose here would not be, I mean, the idea would be all the construction would be funded through grant. And it does not require a grant, but clearly we need some earnest effort,
Right.
earnest money to get to this point.
So I like the idea of, you know, that making able the school buses to be there because then they could take field trips and see stuff, you know, like, yeah, and all those different things, like Bernie's, you know, with the bug count or whatever it is.
Right.
So I personally am fine with all this, but I would like some sort of limit on Tyler's time. So do you have an idea of how many hours you might be looking for? From specifically from Tyler?
In order to, I was envisioning him until you brought up the other driveway guy.
Yeah.
Sort of managing the question of the wetland study, which I imagine would be an hour or so. But maybe we don't need to do that.
Let me see.
Have that information.
So a meeting with Matt on Monday, and I can ask based on the research that he did in regard to the construction site for the town maintenance facility, what he discovered. I can, actually, I wish I had the, I don't have the study with me, but it might even be indicated there. I seem to recollect that the wetland designation wasn't such that there would need to be at least for the area around, in and around the garage construction site, there wouldn't be a requirement for a permit.
There might be some, if the wetland is not a roadblock issue, then I got the idea from Tyler to then flesh out that plan would be, I think he suggested that 3 hours of work or something. I think that's.
So would the horse people help finance that, or is it going to come out of your mom's budget or what?
I think that remains to be seen. They don't have any money until they get the grant.
Oh, I
We
see.
have some money. We wanted to.
You got a lot of work in the mobs.
Exactly. If you guys said, no way, I hate this idea, we wouldn't take it further. If we can proceed the next step, then I need to talk to the committee about funding the design work out of our budget, I think. And then maybe we can get reimbursed by the grant. I don't know.
Or
Well,
maybe we
maybe-
could use ARPA funding.
The other suggestion, depending on the grant, a lot.
We only have a little
lot
bit
of
left, so we have
grants
to.
will include
hear all of it.
permitting, the engineering, the design as part of the proposal. And the, you know, where it accepted. But what I do know is that there's relatively few grants that would reimburse you for work that's been done on the front end to get to a point of applying.
I can't see how you can make the application without having the basic drawings done of what the thing should look like, right? You know.
I don't know.
You know, in some ways, I mean.
They might know how those grants work. They could just say, well, this is what we're planning on doing, but you know, without having a full fleshed out idea. I don't know.
Yeah, so.
Can I ask one question, Terry? Is this coming off Brown's Trace or off of the sign?
Brown's Trace.
Brown's Trace.
It's on the same. driveway.
The old dump road, right?
I just happened to be over there fairly recently. There's no place that can be found where you can do a loop and allow parking other than where there's potentially the wetland.
Well, I won't say there's nowhere. We didn't think of the wetland until we went there with Tyler. I mean, there's not another obvious spot. That's where our parking lot is. And, you know, maybe now that we know that there's a wetland kind of thing there, maybe we can, you know, avoid it, step aside. But we never considered it to be a wetland issue until, you know, a month ago when I went there. So that's another possibility, is just
Move it,
move it.
right?
It can't go to foot signs. That's gonna.
No.
The lead below. I mean, this is our parking lot. We should use it, but you know, might move it a little bit or something to get out of it. So I guess, I thought I had a crisp request. A little bit fuzzy. I mean, I think we are anticipating, certainly needing Tyler's time to do the design work, provided that we can continue. And maybe the first issue is to see what wetland information is already available. And if we're all convinced the state is not going to be a wetland issue, then we move forward with the design work. Right?
So is there anything we need to move here? The only thing I can think of is allowing
Tyler's time.
but I would love to throw some sort of cap of like, if it gets over 10 hours or something, I don't know if 10 is the right number, but personally, I'd like some sort of cap that, hey, like, that, so like,
Yeah, because
Terry's coming back. If you
because
think
they would be eating up a lot of their budget if it was like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need to pay
I-
Tyler. I don't feel like they need to pay Tyler their budget, but like, if it
That's
gets
true.
over 10 hours, then I think, then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is, you guys are.
Yeah, because we do
10
have
hours?
consulting fees, I mean, that we have built into the budget, so for Kyle's time.
From what I heard from him, that sounds like more than enough time for him to do the level of design work that we're talking about to take the grant forward.
I work with people who estimate things for a living and they get it wrong every time. They're like, I can do that. I can do that in a day. I'm like, no,
Right.
nobody can.
That's the meaning of investment.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
This drawing? Pardon me, no, that drawing came from Monica, ran into the House First Council. Oh. That's, we kind of said, what are you looking for? So, well, here's an idea, that's what we're. But-
Cool.
You
Yeah,
know,
we just recognize what do we feel like 10 hours or 8 hours or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
What's
personally,
the cost per hour?
that's why I started to flip through this.
Yeah.
I don't know what that answer is, but
I know, yeah, and
I don't know. He's a consultant, so.
he's a consultant, we have money in the budget, both in the,
I was gonna say 100, right, yeah.
because it's in the planning budget. The select board has a consulting budget and the highway has Tyler's time as well.
Okay.
So,
So, yeah, I mean,
Do we need a motion for this or?
well, since you're limiting at the time, it should be a motion.
okay, so I'll make a motion to generally approve the work towards building a turnaround parking lot at Mobbs Farm to facilitate horse trailers. And, allow the use of the town consultant up to 10 hours.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's, yeah, I hope it works because I think it'd be great if school buses could go.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's very serendipitous. That's good understanding.
yeah.
Thanks, Terry.
I would add emergency and handicap accessibility as being solutions that you're getting.
Well, it was on one of the original lists, it's true, handicap, although it's a little hard to advertise too much on handicap accessibility of trails.
Right, a trail system. You can get to the parking lot and you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
We bring that up about how wide things.
The emergency access for an ambulance to turn around is
a
big deal,
Well, that's great, yeah.
and a fire.
So we have an update on the Essex Rescue budget and new facility.
Yeah, so this is relatively general. I had Brad Holden and I and municipal representatives from other communities that Essex Rescue serves. Had a meeting with Peter Matolo and Colleen Ballard of Essex Rescue 2 weeks ago. And they provided kind of a general update as to where they are at this point in their annual budget. All of that is relatively good news. The rates of reimbursement they've been realizing have gone up from Medicaid. They have been getting significantly more calls, which seems to be an ongoing and growing issue. But the primary thing that they wanted to share with us, and in turn our respective select boards, is around plans for capital investment and upgrade to their facility. So, the idea of them replacing their facility at some point had been asked and kind of pushed back on as we've gone through a number of pretty significant per capita hikes up until this past budget season. We did know that Essex Rescue had worked with the Lang family at Lang Farm to purchase a property
Right.
across from the Inn at Essex, kind
Yeah.
of right adjacent to the off ramp on the Beltway when you come off behind the Essex outlets. So they've had that purchase agreement in place for, I think it was since early last summer. And concurrent to that, given the division of town of Essex and the city of Essex Junction, the town of Essex has been actively engaging in discussion about purchase of property for development of a municipal facility. Coincidentally, the similar location. So they have an agreement, they being the town of Essex has an agreement to purchase parcel of land behind the maple fields on the I'm sorry, not in the maple fields, across from the maple fields on the other corner of Route 15 and the connector. So where the golf, kind of in front of where the golf course is.
Oh, across the connector from.
Exactly. So what that has brought up is the idea of researching the practicality of having an integrated municipal facility that would include town offices, police station, and potentially rescue. So they're looking to do an assessment and try to figure out, does it make sense to merge and have all services in one location? In which case they would, I don't know what exactly the agreement is, whether they're obligated to sell it back to the Lang family, or if the agreement would be nullified and they wouldn't move forward with construction there. But the takeaway is they are actively engaging discussion for development of the facility. And at some point, they will likely be coming to member municipalities for some kind of support.
And they're looking to put like their like all the town offices and the police and rescue all in
Right.
one building or one piece of property.
Contingent upon, sizing, dimension, capacity, all those sorts of things. And also trying to figure out, given the need for easy access for rescue vehicles, which again, from my perspective, is pretty equivalent. They're right there either way. They'd have almost immediate access to the connector or Route 15.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago they built that big new police facility.
Right.
For both, that was for
Right.
the combined towns.
Right.
So we'd be on the hook for just a percentage of the
Right.
fire of the
Exactly. It would
EMS
be- it would
piece.
be only, and so that will be the devil in those details
Yeah.
would be.
Right, where do they
Have
draw?
an integrated facility, exactly how much of that facility is rescue specific? There seems to be some belief that there would be savings involved in being able to be part of an integrated facility versus building a standalone facility if all the other functional requirements will allow. And so, the reason they've been aware that contributing municipalities knew about the purchase of the property. They hadn't been proactive and as transparent about how far along that
Exactly.
process had gone. I think understanding that there had been some sticker shock around recent per capita increases within our communities. So this was kind of their opportunity to say, hey, this is where we've been going. This is the work that we've been doing. These are the options we're exploring. We just kind of wanted to put it out there and want your respective select boards to know.
That was good. Cause but you just found out about it, like reading the paper, oh, look, they
Right.
bought
we're
land.
like, so we had a, whatever it was, 18% hike last
Yeah,
year.
oh, a huge percentage.
And,
It was,
yeah.
yeah.
And they
it
go,
was like
well, they just bought a
22.
piece of property, huh?
Yeah. And, we know that we obviously understand the, distinction between, capital budget funding and programming and, the general operational budget, but it definitely created kind of a.
The
raised
optics were not
raised
good.
eyebrow.
Mhm.
Optics were not good at all. Thank you, John.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Loader update and lease. I guess that's why you're here.
No, this is actually, is Paula out there still? Paula, can you hear us?
Oh, we can get rid of.
Maybe stop sharing the screen.
Yeah, let me do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is not fun, considering we just built a budget with no new equipment in it. And we're
Yeah, I
here,
don't even understand
and now we have a problem with the loader. It's a very old machine anyway, and it broke. And Brody, now you go, what's the cost benefit of
Right.
buying or having a lease? And just, to me, it's all about the cash flow, because right now they, without having extra, the full staff, there is an extra some funding in the highway budget. But there's Paula. She gets to talk about it.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Paula.
Yeah, so apparently the bucket loader broke and couldn't be used. So they brought it down to Milton Cat. Milton Cat looked at it, thought it was the rear axles, but in actuality, it was the front axles. So it needed to be replaced. And so that's where you see the estimate here, which surprises it. That amount surprised me. I did talk
23,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did talk to Dave Fitzgerald, the sales guy, and he was really nice. He apologized for doing the work on the rear axles because that wasn't the case. They didn't know where it was in the beginning. So they went to the rear first, found out that wasn't the case, and went to the front and had more problems with the front. So that's why you see the estimate of $23,000 is what it costs to fix this loader. We have
the age again. What is
that?
the age of what is the age of the loader again?
I think it's like 2012, I think. I'm not certain. Don't quote me on that. I don't think it's in here. Actually, hold on. Let me just see if it is.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause,
not-
it all depends on how long the loaders last. Because
Yeah.
Inventory.
Because my
I can-
heavy equipment list is with the town meeting material, just in case.
Yeah,
anybody needs to know.
I don't have that in here. It just says what it is, like a Caterpillar 926M. So it doesn't have I don't have the actual year of it.
Yeah, because I was tempted, by the new one initially when you and I talked about things, but then when you sent us this nice new other one from the John Deere guy, and he's offering a substantial amount for trade-in.
Yes, he is willing to give 97,000 for the trade-in. And also he wanted, I haven't talked to the guy from John Deere, but what I was told from the highway guys is that he is willing, if we're leasing it right now, which we are leasing it, we can, whatever we're paying towards the lease will also go towards the sale of the new one.
And so this is the one we're leasing, is the John Deere.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, I'm sorry. I lost you there at the end.
So this is what we're currently leasing, because
Yes.
this is broken.
Yep,
Oh, like recently leasing. in the past-
yes, correct.
Right.
Wait a minute, the one that we're leasing is not the one that we're fixing, is that right?
Right,
That's my understanding.
yes, because the broken one's still sitting at Milton Cat.
We,
Because nobody's decided to spend 23,000 on a 2012 machine.
And we wouldn't have had in the budget the dollars to lease it because it was assumed that it was in good shape.
Probably.
The
Yeah,
one that we-
yeah, because remember, I got to say, we're not looking at any new heavy equipment this year.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, the old one has to be fixed in order for them, it has to be drivable for them to take away.
Okay. Oh, yeah, they have it at
2015.
2015.
It's
Okay.
enough for hours, it's also very relevant. to the
And yeah,
topic.
right, because it has to be
2,500.
20, theoretically, as of 2021, it had 2,500 hours, but
Oh, this is 2021.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
it
that.
says there's replacement years in 2027. So according to this chart,
Chart.
but
So
he-
I'm not
you
sure
also-
what you guys want to do, if you want to continue leasing it for a little while longer and then doing the purchase, or however you want.
How much is the lease?
The
actually,
lease is
if you look
5,000.
right now, that's
What?
currently
For what?
5,000, but if we tell them, currently we're paying 5K.
For
a
what?
month. But,
A month?
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
But if we say, oh, why don't we spend 23,400 and some odd dollars and fix it and get 97,000 back, and then spend a 3,000 and $208 for 60 months, you get a brand new one.
correct.
Are they, is that, I think it's 97,000 what they
Yep.
trade in? Is that
Yep.
after repairs or as it sits right now?
It has to be running in order for the trade-in.
So we have to spend I'm sorry, I don't have the number.
23,000.
Fix
Yeah,
To get the 97 trade.
right.
Correct.
So the trade-in is effectively 74.
Right.
The cost of the new again. is
If you,
264.
if you look at the list price, your eyes pop out, because the suggested like manufacturer suggested retail price is $408,331.07.
But the selling price is 264.
264, and then if you spend,
Take the 97 off that.
yeah, and you get a balance of 167,000 to do 5 years and, or whatever it is.
But for our cost, it's 167 plus the 23,
Right.
which you can't finance with this, but we are still shelling out 180 to get ourselves to that
23 is
place.
gone though. 23's gotta happen, whether we trade it or whether we
Right.
keep it.
23
23
23 is a lost.
It's out of our control
That's a
unless we
lost,
take it somewhere else and find a different axle that they can do it for half price.
Right. but that's a lost cost.
Yeah.
So you just, it's not part of the discussion.
Correct.
It's just there. And we already paid 4 because it wasn't fair. To, I mean,
I'm sorry.
the work was done.
Will they take the lease payments we've made so far towards the price of the new one?
Yes,
We say that, okay.
And how many have we made?
1.
So it was.
So it's
very
5,000. So
yeah. 5,000
off that.
Yeah. So it was very
Yeah,
recent
and
that.
It's not 5,000 off, it's just 5,000 that we have no control over.
Right,
So we're
right.
$8,000 that's completely out
Right,
of our
that's
control.
completely gone.
Been spent since Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
When you're past your budget.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. I
That's
mean, I
very
guess
frustrating.
we're still in this budget, so.
Right,
there's no
but-
doubt about it.
All of the
Yeah.
annual cost of financing is 36,000 or so.
I'm sorry, Brian, what did you say?
Yeah, just the annual cost, the lease, excuse me. The finance cost is what, about 36,000?
A year?
The lease price that they're quoting, if you do it for 60 months, is $3,208.79 a month.
Yep.
38.
40,000, yeah.
Look hard in that, interested in any feedback?
I don't know.
Uh,
Short.
Limited.
I own some of these and I run them. I suggest you fix it. And get it evaluated and then do a needs analysis as to what size machine you need. And what the value of this machine is based upon the hours and the mechanical evaluation that's been done. You just pulled the rear end apart and it seems fine. You
No, they
it.
fixed it. They replaced it.
No,
they did-
They tore one end apart and it wasn't broken.
But they
So-
did put new stuff in.
Because they were in
No,
there.
They fixed the rear axles as well. They thought it was coming from the rear axles. They changed it and then.
It was still there.
Yep,
It's got a fresh rear end and a fresh front end.
correct.
So this machine might be a valuable machine. One of the
Might.
things.
It might
about
be,
New
yes.
machines is they got a ton of sensors on it, they got horse P on it, they don't run as well, they have to be run completely differently. So I think you want to study this a little bit before you jump into the $400,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I tend
exactly.
to agree, but that study costs us $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
Well, no, if the machine's ready.
No, but it-
That's true. If
Right, how long, how, what's the estimated time to repair it?
So it's ready to be, it's done.
Oh, they did it
There's-
already?
Yeah, so what's gonna happen is if that one
They
comes
should've
back,
come to us first.
Go ahead, Paula.
if that one comes back and you don't want to lease anymore, that lease is no longer, and this
Yeah,
whole
you're
thing
right,
is
you're right.
void. You
Yeah.
lose the lease and then you're back to square one. And honestly, I will tell you, speaking with Milton Cat, the guy said, you're lucky that this is it because we can't find parts for this. And if something else breaks, it's going to cost you some money. So, that being said, I mean, this is totally your call. You guys, but if we lose this lease, then we lose that machine. They got to go back to square one, find another machine and go from there.
And so, sorry if I missed this, the machine we're leasing, we would just get to have, like,
No.
it's that specific machine?
Yes.
Yes, it would be that machine that we have right now.
What does the crew think?
The crew likes the new machine. And they went and asked for whatever their preferences were of whatever they needed. I'm not certain as to what it is because I'm not really familiar with that kind
Well,
of
I
stuff.
mean, it
but-
is encouraging that Stowe, Johnson and Starksboro have just got the same unit recently.
Yes.
But if this is a real problem, we can't get parts.
I find,
I would take one opinion on that.
and
Yeah, that's right.
I'll play the new guy card,
Right.
but
Exactly.
if I had a vehicle that I owned that was a 2015, that I just put a new rear end and a new front end on it, I would not be looking to trade it in. I just put a bunch of money into it. I mean, I don't know loaders and I don't know
Yeah.
what the pieces are, and I would want to respect the road crew's opinion. I also know if you get a new fancy toy, like you're like, that's the one you want, 'cause that one's awesome, not your old beater.
That's right.
But it does, if someone were to evaluate it in some way and say, yeah, you can get 3 more years out of this. Again,
Oh.
I'm not a part of any of these conversations that Paula had, but if the person who's trying to sell me a machine is saying the machine I have that I'm going to trade in, you can't get parts for it, I'm immediately like, well, of course you would say that, because you're trying to sell me a $500,000
exactly.
machine.
Is there
Yep.
another cat dealer that is not affiliated with Milton Cat?
I don't know that. And I agree. You should look into it and see. I really don't know if this machine that they did fix is maybe fine. I don't know. That would be a conversation that I think, John, maybe myself, and if one of you wanted to join in with the road crew and figure this out, I think that's definitely what to do.
They work
Instead
Friday
of-
this time of year.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to, I'm free tomorrow afternoon. I'd be willing to have that discussion with them before we make a decision. I will tell you which way, like, I'm like Peter, I'm torn. I could go either way, but we're giving them a $4.5 million building. I just feel like those 400 people that voted against it, or however many it was, I feel like it's just an extra kick in the shins to
Yeah,
spend whatever it is.
yeah, absolutely.
That said, 36,000 a year doesn't seem bad for, what is that for 5 years?
That's the
5 years.
interest cost.
No, that's the.
No, that's the
whole
payment.
cost.
That's the payment. That's
That's
the
the
mortgage.
payment.
That's the mortgage payment.
And that was that a 5-year thing?
Yes.
200 a month.
Yeah,
It's 36,000 a year.
that's
Yeah,
the whole
That's what,
payment.
that's what Eric said. That's not the interest. That's the payment. That's the principal and interest.
But again, that's,
But
principal
it's
and-
5 years. It's for
yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. Which is normal. I mean, it's a lot cheaper than our trucks.
would
Right.
would that work if? I guess
'Cause we can't-
delaying the decision until next select board meeting is 2 weeks, so it's,
Because we can't drive it off the lot and not.
well, it doesn't matter, they already fixed it.
It's already,
I know, but you can't drive it off the lot and continue, you break the lease at that point.
True,
well,
right, you don't get your,
Once you-
your credit.
once
for
you
your
turn
lease
back-
payments.
Right.
once you turn, right, so you lose $5,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's an additional 5 that you just spent.
But personally, I wouldn't want to be held over the barrel for $5,000 for a $250,000 machine.
No, but you really want to take the
Um,
time to be.
I think the question to me is,
Is what he's talking
is
about.
someone looking at the machine and saying, here's this, oh my God, get rid of this thing. You're
That's-
lucky to get $100,000 for it. Or like, no. This is fine for the next 5 years.
That's why I wanted to find out if there's a.
We need someone else.
independent Cat dealer.
Right, who can
Because-
evaluate it.
Because they're the ones who would evaluate a cat and what it would be worth. But this is, Milton Cat, and so I don't know.
I guess,
Does it need to be cat or does it need to be a?
'Cause it's a
low-
Caterpillar.
No, I know, but I mean, like a
Well,
motorcycle's a motorcycle. I can tell you if a motorcycle's worth money or not.
Yeah, but you can't have someone from offsite come in to the cat dealership and do their. So-
That's testifying to like, you're risking the $5,000 by evaluating it.
Yeah, that's sort of the sticky wicket. I guess the other question, Paul, and again, I don't know either what the depth and longevity of the relationship that we have with that specific cat dealer. I mean, to a certain degree, there's, potentially a matter of trust, engendering trust and the support that we've received from them over the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I kind of came
letting
into
that
this.
guide the decision to a degree, even though they have something to benefit from by selling the machine.
Yeah, I really came into this at the end of all of this. I didn't meet with the guy for this John Deere thing. What was thrown at me was the estimates, and I was completely confused by the estimates. So I took it upon myself to call Milton Cat and talk to the sales guy, and the guy was very apologetic. He's like, listen, this is what it is. This is the bill, 23,000. That's including from the rear axle to the front axles, $23,000. He's willing to work with us to do whatever, but he can't, if he does not bill us for the rear axles, he can do that. It's 4,000 some odd dollars.
Well,
But
that's
the parts,
almost a
but the-
month payment.
yeah, but the
Wait,
parts
I
are
missed
not,
that.
they're not
Why is he not-
warranted. They're just not warranted. So if that part breaks again, then you end up paying full price for another one. The front axles, those did have the issues, and that's where, so if you divide it up, 4,000, and then you got 18,000 for the rear, or for the front, sorry. So that's where you get the 23,000. So I was like, okay, I don't, at first I was like, I don't know how did this happen? And now that it's there and done, we're on the hook for $23,000.
Yeah, because that should have come to the select board first. Before you,
Yeah,
I would ask Paul, if we're talking about a new machine, what's the warranty on the new machine? This one has a severe problem and we're, what, 7 years into its
Right.
life?
9 years in, or
Yeah.
8.5, 2015.
Oh, 2015.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
It's up in 2027.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's 9 years, so it's certainly beyond the.
And it's got some hours on it.
Yeah, it's got some
It had
hours on it.
2,500 on it
3 years
23.
ago.
years ago.
Yeah,
So-
It now has, at least from what this is saying, the trade-in, the hours, the meter reading at that time, and I'm not sure when this was done, was 3,731 hours.
when they took it in.
No, when this quote for the new one was done.
Oh,
I wish this was back in February 11th.
Like a
That's
month
how-
ago.
Yeah.
yeah, it should have come to the select board.
Yeah,
But
we-
for 23,000.
I'll just add, the maintenance and the operation of the machine, as well as the hours and the appearance of the machine, as a material component as to what the useful life and value of the machine is. And if you get an independent person to look at the machine and operate it a little bit, you'll have a lot more information. If one guy's offering you 97,000, what's CAT offering it to you? We went through this decision and CAT didn't get their bid on time and Adam voted and you went out and bought a case excavator. And if we think about it, I'm just encouraging you to.
Yeah, we're already dealing with a cat dealer, Milton Cat. And so that's why I asked if there was another independent cat dealer around that we
You
could
can
ask.
determine whether part availability is by calling another cat dealer on a remote basis. Milton Cat is a big dealer in New England, but you can go to another dealer to determine the availability. of
Do you hear
parts.
that?
I'll call a couple friends of mine that own a lot of yellow iron and find out if they.
Well, I just looked up,
To see if there's parts available.
I just looked up cat dealers listing, it's listing Clark's as a cat dealer.
That's for the engine. That the yellow iron and the engine, a good portion of your on-road trucks have cat diesels.
Okay, so I'm not, I just don't feel great about pulling the trigger on a huge purchase
No.
based on information, based on
Right.
kind of two things, not wanting to lose $5,000 and information from one person who's got, regardless of our relationship with them, have a vested interest in selling us. It's like you drive your car to, if you drove your car to a mechanic and he said, oh yeah, your car's shot, I'll give you $5,000 for it and I'll put you in a new Ford Mustang.
Yeah.
I'll actually give you 10,000. It just doesn't feel responsible.
Dealership, right?
Doesn't feel
exactly.
responsible, it
It's-
just feels like somebody else has to look at it and say, yeah, they're being totally straight with you. And I feel like in regards to the relationship, that isn't like a rude response from us. That's like hey, our select board is just anxious about a machine they don't know anything about. And they feel like they need to get other, right, they just have to budget.
Right, exactly.
It's just the worst, I can't imagine the
wor-
worst time.
Like
for-
literally,
for
this is the worst
decision.
meeting for it to happen,
I
right?
mean, it's just, I called when she told me, because she was trying to figure out what to do. Because she said, I have this bill for $23,000.
Right.
And so this is mostly Paula's fault, is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying, we talked about it because this should have come to the select board, even to be approved before it was done.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I know.
It's above $5,000. We're above time.
It sounds like you might have consensus from the select board to just fix it, bring it home, and
Yeah, we'll go from there and
we'll have to assess the part situation.
But why don't, but
Independently.
in the meantime, you could, as, Jim said, just call another cat dealer and say, what are you charging for these parts? Are they available?
Right, that might, maybe if that's a half hour of work to call a cat dealer in Nebraska and just say, hey, I've got a blah, 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 blah. If I drive it to you right now, what do you give me for it? And what if I need, what's the parts, what's your access to parts for this vehicle? And basically like, oh, I'll give you $150 for it and I can get all the parts I need. That changes things.
yeah,
Exactly.
I'll have the highway guys do a little bit more investigating and see what they can come up with.
Ireland owns
Okay.
a lot of cat. DCI's got a lot of John Deere because they own the John Deere building for a lot. That there's people around that can give you.
That
very
information,
good,
right.
Yeah.
Independent, just like the guy about the salt at the town meeting.
Yeah.
You know, he's been doing it for 15 years, he knows what he's about.
Okay.
To find out whether this is a good machine or a bad machine.
So
it's just a
I
half
guess what
hour.
I worry about
Right,
is
right.
leaving them in a position where they've got 2 weeks to wait for a. Like, do we want to say, like, I don't know how to leave it for Paula so that she has some direction.
What we can do is, we're gonna go into executive session tonight.
Yep.
You're gonna talk to them tomorrow.
Well, I offered that was an offer. I don't know. It
That was,
sounds like
but that was to talk to them, not, this is a different, that conversation doesn't need to happen now.
I was just to talk to the guys.
Right, about the dealership, like,
Yeah.
but we're sort of saying, let's pause
But-
on that.
Well, if we can do it. Get it done like the information does it tomorrow, then we can come out of, executive session and say. This is what the decision was.
Yeah.
Because the
And that
discussion
talk
has been
doesn't
done in
really need to be
public,
Executive session. It's just that we can't do it outside of a meeting.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know the legality of all that, but I trust that you two do, and that's great. I mean, we need to not wait 2 weeks to
Right,
pull the trigger
exactly.
on whatever.
How
So,
much longer do you have the John Deere? How much have you paid?
That's a good question.
Paula,
For the leased machine?
Yeah.
Right, so in other words, what he's saying.
Oh, he's saying you've got,
5,000.
you've got 3 weeks to work with. You've only had it for a week. You paid for 4 weeks.
That's what he's.
That's a
saying.
good.
Right, it's 5,000 a month and we've just got the bill for the first month. So
And when did we get
can-
it?
We can pay this, I think
End of
they
June.
got it in February, the first of
February.
February.
February what? Because like we're looking for.
I don't know. I don't know
I
when
think it's
they,
probably,
When does month 2 begin is the question.
Right.
yeah. Because if you get months too, then, then you've got a few weeks.
But it sounds like
yeah,
it's not.
I
she's saying
honestly
February
don't
1st.
think they can lease it for however long. I don't
But
think,
we,
I don't think we should jump into like making that decision on purchasing the new one.
No, but
For
what we were
me,
saying-
I
what we
just
were
want to
trying to
make
get at-
sure
We're
the
trying not to pay another
23,000 is getting
$5,000 we
paid
didn't
for.
have to.
Right, what we were trying to get at is if we just got it and we've got 3 weeks left on that month that we paid, let's take those
Yeah.
3 weeks to help make our decision. But it sounds like we're already.
Close
on
to the
month
end of-
2.
Maybe they'll apply the second month towards the purchase.
They might.
I'm sure they will
They
buy
will
theirs.
apply
Well-
any lease payments that we make, they would
Yeah.
apply that to the purchase
Then-
price.
Then that gives us the time we need.
Yep, exactly.
Well, but it'd be great to
Only
not,
for
it'd be
issues,
great if we
yeah.
decide to stick with what we have, it'd be great to not pay an extra $5,000.
I would suggest that you can negotiate the used machine that you currently have in your possession is worth $5,000 less.
Then,
That hadn't had
Right.
any hours on it. and
Right.
Hadn't used,
yeah,
that's just.
Right.
Somebody should go down and talk to the CAT service department and the mechanic that worked on the machine. And get the general impression of the people that work on the machines. Because I went down to CAT and I talked to them extensively when we threw the grader away. And they were very straightforward. They didn't hide anything. They laid all the facts, and you don't want to hear them tonight, but. Somebody that knows what they're doing should go down and talk to the CAT service department. You got a $23,000 bill. Somebody should explain it to you and give you a general idea of what else they checked. And whether they noticed that anything else was wrong with the machine. Just investigate it, and I think you'll find that it's not that hard to do.
Did you hear that, Paula?
I did.
Yeah, we'll sit on it then, I guess. And
Yeah, let's find out. I like the idea of let's call another parts dealer.
yeah,
See,
Yeah.
see how accurate it is that particular
model.
model, whatever, is out of parts.
because some of
and-
our machines, we've gone back and forth to New Hampshire with, so you could call them New Hampshire.
Right, just call them and say, hey,
New Hampshire.
What's the year and model number of that machine?
2015,
It's a
926 M
926.
2015.
and we think it's got $3,700.
Correct.
Right. And it's got a new front and back end.
And new tires. So it's not been that long since you put new tires on it.
Hopefully they lubed it while I was there too, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm leaning towards, we hang on to it. It's just not a good year for new equipment.
no, it's not. No, it's
but
not.
I think it's worth doing a little bit of investigation while we have the other one here and just doing our due diligence while it's parked there. Take an extra week or something, and then if we need to make a decision, somehow we've got to just get a quick little, so, I don't know, like, we could authorize Catherine to make a decision on the select board path. Can we? Yeah.
Here's a,
Yeah, you can do that too.
machinerypete.com is selling a 2015 with 2,600 hours on it for 133,000.
Machinery Pete, that's a website?
Yeah, machinerypete. Yeah, that wasn't me being cute. No, it's called machinerypete.com. No, sorry.
Eric, no good deed goes
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
If you, there's a couple things, people that own this equipment do preventative maintenance and they also do investigative. They pull oil out of the engine and out of the components and they check them for metal pieces. It's really cheap. But if the thing's starting to wear a bearing or something else,
They did stop making them in 2020, this particular.
you can find it in the oil. And so just,
According to
you can do a little investigation here very quickly and find out whether you got a good machine or whether you're gonna make a very bad decision.
Okay, so like, just to be clear for Paula and John, so the questions we're looking for are. Let's double check on the parts. On the part availability for that loader.
With a third party.
Yeah, like,
With the third party.
yeah, some other cat person.
I would look in New Hampshire.
And what are the other questions, or is that it?
What, if another dealer, you could.
What,
see
if we drove it to you right now, what would you give us for it?
Yeah.
Like what's the trade-in? What would you give us for trade-in on it?
If you're
Can you
talking to
can
New
you get
Hampshire.
parts for it?
Yeah,
And if we've done the rear axle and the front axle, what other sort of catastrophic things have not been looked at that if you looked at, you might go, oh, wow, this thing's spent.
you know, on a 2015 machine that no longer is being made in 2020, as of 2020, it's no longer being made.
Yeah, it is.
No,
2023,
he just looked at,
That's what Google said. I
2023, 203 hours.
No, it says Caterpillar 926M is a small loader that was manufactured from 2015 to 2020.
No, there's one for sale right here, 2023,
oh, it may be for,
926M. No, it's a 2023 model. 926M.
Google, it's talking about, because Caterpillar started, maybe it's.
But who knows? It could be like an MX versus an M or,
Yeah, exactly. But
Okay,
For me, I just want to make sure it's okay that you guys are okay with paying the $23,000 bill.
we're not.
We don't have a choice.
Any choice, so.
I
right,
know.
you don't. We have to
Okay.
pay it, whether you
Let's-
keep with the machine or whether you get rid of it, you have to pay
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
The work has been done.
One thing we always do is ask for the parts, so we check them and make sure that they really were bad.
ask for the old parts.
Ask for the old parts.
Yeah.
First thing, they'll make a nice ash bin.
Here's our exact machine, 2015 with 3,600 hours on it
Oh, that,
for 151,000.
So trading value is probably. not too
Probably,
far off.
right.
right.
Thanks for all this work, Paula.
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Sorry, I couldn't give you more answers. I'm not a
Well, it's.
highway guy.
It came upon everybody very quickly, obviously.
Very.
More importantly, you have the respect of all the highway guys.
When I saw it on the when I saw it in the packet, I thought it was a joke, like, they're not asking for. a new loader.
That can't be.
You said that's where I'm here.
April.
Is
No.
meeting date April 1st?
Right, I was gonna say April 1st, early.
Yeah.
Buckle up, the back goes coming.
Yeah.
All right, next on the list is the select board updates, starting with the town facility. So you want to go first then?
Sure.
What does select board
Yes, I-
updates mean?
So,
Go ahead, Eric.
well, so I think I had asked to put this on the agenda, so I was just looking to have a discussion in public as to what the next steps were.
Sure.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, we can do that. So per the timeline and the consulting report, next steps would be, putting out an RFP for the design and, permitting.
Cool. I guess we gotta get on it, right?
Mhm.
And that's where our ARPA funding is going.
Oh, right, that does determine our ARPA funding, doesn't it?
It does.
Mhm.
When do we have to have that spent again?
It's okay, what
Yeah.
we can do in this fiscal year, and we may do it anyway, but just run it through, call it income, call it.
That's right.
income, And then basically offset any operational expenses for the year, and so.
That's,
And then at the end of at the bottom of the financial statement, we make the transfer out to, for whatever ARPA we bring in. Put the transfer in a separate ARPA fund,
right.
but at that point, it's no longer ARPA. So then it is a board designated fund.
No
And
restrictions.
then it's subject to whatever you decide to spend it on.
Are we allowed to do that?
Oh,
Are we-
yeah,
Are we
absolutely.
laundering the money?
That's
Are we
exact-
turning it into non-ARPA money?
Whitewashing, none of it.
No, that's exactly what the.
But that's what we're doing.
That's what the feds allowed. Absolutely. In fact, is we only had to do it once because anything less than 10 million, you just had to, declare it income, making up for lost
Okay.
revenue.
You just spent 23,000 of it anyway.
No, that's not ARPA.
Not- But technically, by the end of 2024, it has to be designated if you.
You have to have tagged it.
Yeah.
I thought it was earlier. I thought it was earlier in 24.
No, it's the December, it's the end of,
We-
it's the end of December.
Coming up in April, well,
It's the portal, yeah, that you have to repeat last year's.
And again, we just need to run it through the financial statement, or the operational statement for the year,
Right.
and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, because it's just by the December 2024, you have to have everything designated and it all should be spent by the end of December 2026. But it will be. I mean, it's very,
Yeah, it's
very
not
clear
far.
because we,
Yeah.
already got, the money moved for the library and we already spent a big chunk of it already. For all the other things that I mentioned at town
Yeah,
meeting.
this isn't on the advice of the treasurer. This is actually on the advice of Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Absolutely.
And so, and our CPA as well, our
Yeah.
auditing.
Yeah.
You say this, you mean the process of putting down his income and that's process. Okay.
Is that your liability policy? Bucky?
Okay, so for the maintenance facility, next step is,
Yeah, just,
RFP.
I'm meeting Matt Young coincidentally is gonna be in Burlington on Monday. He's gonna stop through Monday afternoon to talk through next steps, understanding that he may or may not be the person initiating that.
So select board updates. You had asked for sort of a list of things that we're working on. Are you ready to hear those, at least the ones?
yeah, I happen to think that, well, in our, Jessica put this in, there's an update too. Hers is a really quickie.
Okay.
But it says there's no action needed by the select board, but we may wish to acknowledge it at our March 7th meeting.
Oh, I saw
but-
that.
But Holly, librarian at Deborah Rawson, is getting a permit from the Department of Liquor and Lottery because she has an online portal. And found it very difficult, but they're having a wine and dessert function on Saturday, March 9th from 7 to 9 PM at the Deborah Rawson Memorial Library as a fundraiser. And they have a certified pour of wine to do that.
So it's like a donation kind of thing?
Yes, it is.
I see.
Yes, but it says the approval, this approval in the days of paper applications only required the town clerk's signature. But she was not able to submit the payment to the Department of Liquor and Lottery until the town approved the permit. So she's advanced the application so she can continue the process. And all we need to do is say, yeah, we heard it. And that's it. But we're going to get our first, second, and third class licenses probably in the next meeting that are due for the year.
Okay.
And so you want to,
Yeah.
I have updates and then I also have a tickler list.
Yeah, Peter had a fundamental question, which is what are select board updates? Did we answer that?
No,
No, because I don't really know still, but there,
Is that basically any topic that we want, that one of us wants to talk about or John wants to talk about that isn't an outside organization coming in or a taxpayer coming in?
right,
and it's not an action item.
Right, we can't take action items on them, but they're like, hey, like, maybe you're working with the library, You're like, hey, you
Yeah.
know, at the library, they're doing this thing, you know, it's maybe something we need to think about. So it's sort of like.
In 3 months, they're probably gonna come and ask us to sign off on a hub, just be aware, it was a good
thing
meeting.
to say
It was a
to
good
each other in
meeting, right,
public
yeah,
that doesn't require a vote.
an action of some kind.
Yeah, because like Eric and John were the Jericho representatives to the first budget meeting with Underhill and their select. That would have been an update that they would have said, well,
Yep.
we've talked about or like when Wayne was doing the Tri-Town Committee and they talked about transportation. Or like I'm gonna say right now, the Jericho Energy Task Force, and it's showing a bikers versus cars. It was well attended. We had 43 people.
Wow.
Oh,
Bikes versus cars. It was very,
Is it at the library?
yeah.
yep. And then on Saturday, March 9th, this is also an update. That's this Saturday, 10 to noon. There's going to be a reception for the artists that have participated in this current show, Farms and Fields. And you'll also find this quite interesting. This is from the RPC, based on material I recently received at the meeting. The RPC recently presented the fiscal year 2025 transportation capital projects list for the state. And Jericho has several projects listed. The Vermont 15 sidewalk, Jericho Market to Park Street has preliminary engineering scheduled for FY 25.
Right.
Construction is on the list for 25, 26, and 27.
25, 26.
27. That's what the state has on its,
So it could be one of each of those construction seasons.
Yeah, depending on how-
Depending on how it's prioritized.
right. and how-
Okay.
But
Wait, I'm sorry. So that this is the state, I'm sorry.
this is the
This
state.
is the state telling us.
Yep.
We will get to your job. Your sidewalk could happen in maybe 25, maybe 26, maybe 27, because we, the state, are in charge of that.
Yeah, because it's the capital projects list for the state, because these are big money that comes from the state and the feds that go to.
Oh, because the state's paying for it, some or all or whatever of that sidewalk.
Yeah.
And they're saying we'll give this money at some point.
And the Vermont 15 sidewalk, Jericho Market to Price Street has, you know, like I said, okay. The Lee River sidewalk, they've still left it on the list. And they have construction for FY 25, 26. So
Oh, great.
so that's on my particular list to see where we are on all the making sure we got the permits again and start all, you know, we need to move on it. Because otherwise you're gonna lose it.
Yep.
And then projects, we had a project that was on the candidate list that has now moved up to the development and construction list. And what this means is these are projects that are anticipated or expected to have preliminary engineering and or right-of-way during the budget year. So the Skunk Hollow Route 117 intersection has moved to the list for fiscal year 25.
Oh, great.
So on that, I happen to be related to the people on that corner, and they're very concerned about what that looks like. Do we have like a sketch or an estimate that we could share with them? Because they're very concerned with how
That, is it that how, the White House right on the?
it's
right on
the affected property.
Yeah.
And so I have said that I would bring that back, and I'm not doing this as a favor, but they literally are the only affected property.
Yeah, it's a state project because it's Route 117 essentially.
Sure, but do we have like
I don't think
a
there's-
design or like, because
We,
they're looking at it.
years ago, we had approved a preferred alternative. Actually, our preferred alternative was the roundabout, and they said no, but it was also too expensive. But there was another alternative that people talked about with turning lanes at Skunk Hollow.
And so that's what,
So it's an old project, and it could be in Paula's files.
okay,
But it may, you know,
it may
once
change.
it may have changed because, and the state, they're not just gonna start it, they're gonna come and talk to the select board and talk about
Okay.
what it's gonna look like first. So
Okay.
your people will know.
Okay.
I mean.
Yeah, just if we, because they hear about some of these things and they're like, I don't understand how they don't take out my living room and doing it, so.
Right.
Right.
So,
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I don't either, I'm looking at it, I'm like,
Right, yeah.
what are you gonna do?
But
So,
there's also, I mean, there's a pretty deep swell between
Mhm.
the road.
Yeah, there's like-
House.
Like a
the road goes here,
Yeah,
the stream goes here, It's a deep, right?
Yeah.
Very deep.
Way
Yep,
down there,
yep.
real deep culvert, and then their house is like right there, it's real close to 117, so like a slip lane would like, you know.
Yeah, because they are talking slip lanes and things like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's definitely giving them a little anxiety, so I said
Okay.
I'd try to just find out what
I
the
can
design
see,
looks
I can
like.
see what we have can connect with Linda and Paul and see what we have in our files.
And as I said, I don't know if that's what's going to continue, but I do know that it is on the state list.
Great.
For, to, you know, be,
Because
moving to preliminary engineering.
that house was once part of the farmstead.
Oh, wow,
Is that right?
Yeah, all the way down there.
wow.
My grandfather's land started at Skunk Hollow and ended like
At Barber
halfway
Farm.
between Barber Farm and Lucky Spot. So all the
Wow.
way on the other side of that bridge. Yeah,
Wow,
it's huge. It was 500 acres.
Wow.
that is huge. So feel free to tickle our list first then.
Okay, so what I came up with, and this is a good time to do it. Again, you know, we're starting out, it's a new board. It's kind of, I think of it as like a new year. So I did take some notes of what people brought up at the town meeting, and I
Right.
don't proclaim to have captured every single one. There was probably some that I missed. Here's what I had. Road specs update specifically due to for the line striping.
What does that mean, road spec update?
So she asked for, so Phil Newbeck
Yep.
asked for some amount of money spent to update the road specs, which are older. And so,
Does that mean like here in Jericho, every class 1 road has a shoulder of 4 feet and a lane width of 17 feet or whatever? That's what the road
The
specs are talking about?
wasn't sure.
Yeah, the
Okay.
public works specs are very old and it talks about the street lights that are out there and that, you know, if you're gonna put in a new light, this is what it should look like.
Yeah.
And all our roads, you could probably land a small plane on, well, because they're like 24 foot wide with, you know, even wider shoulders and things like that. Far bigger than we need. We do need to update the road specs, but $500. She just wants to deal with the fact that they put double striping
Yeah,
on
On
Skunk
Skunk Hollow,
Hollow,
where she lives.
where she lives, and it's very slippery. And there are ways to, as the other public, other road people say, to make it not as slippery.
Yeah.
And we don't know why they did double striping, because most people don't,
yeah.
unless they put it down first and went, oops, that's not where we're supposed to put
So,
it.
so the road
Well,
specs are a document.
We had requested it because of the traffic calming benefit.
Yeah, but you only need the one. You don't need double stripes. You only need the rough
Traffic
stripe.
calming is the inner stuff, but like what's
Yeah. So you don't need another fog line. You just need one
in the right
line,
place?
and that makes it look like the road is smaller. Double lit,
I'm missing something here.
yeah,
Are you
you-
talking specifically about the lines that were just painted
on
on
Skunk Hollow.
Skunk Hollow?
Yeah,
What am I missing?
well, she said
So,
there's
so
two
instead of
lines.
like it single width, they were painted like that.
2 passes of,
Exactly,
to make those white, so the white lines are twice as wide as they usually are.
correct. Which creates the,
No,
Oh, wait, hold on.
you don't need to do that. You only need the one regular line striping in further, and that's it.
in further. What is
You
that?
mean, if you're gonna make it smaller, like you make a 9 foot or a 10 foot,
Right,
that's where you put the line and that's it. You don't need another line.
That's what they did on Brown's Trace Road.
Right, exactly.
so
They
my-
brought the fog lines in more, but they didn't
And
do
that
two
really-
fog lines. They just
Same
did
width,
one.
same width, you just slide them in.
And
Oh,
that
yeah.
really gives the illusion of it being smaller road.
well, that's the way that, I mean, that's the way that Tyler had contextualized the whole benefit of doing a double fog line.
No.
Well, I wonder,
I'm telling you what he told me.
Yeah,
I wonder if there's some, I wonder if
Like,
there's
why-
some,
Why would we have gone ahead and done that if there was no traffic calming benefit?
well, I wonder if there's some study that says that double wide, like wider lines on the side,
That's what I'm saying.
moving them in and making them twice as wide has a better,
see, if you don't have enough room for bikes, then
that's counterproductive.
it's counterproductive.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality is, it's not a hard barrier.
No,
It's an advisory
right.
Fog lines are advisory.
But if you look at other towns, when they've moved the fog lines in and the way Jericho's done throughout other roads, it's just moved in and it's
So,
just,
yeah.
and that makes, and that really is what makes it look smaller.
My recollection of that discussion was that there was no ability to shrink the size of the lane because I believe they were already 9-foot lanes. So the benefit of doubling the fog line was to create the visual impression of the road being narrow.
Without actually narrowing it at all.
Actually narrowing it.
Okay, so this is just a thing to
Yeah.
like, have a thing for us to remember that we took away from town meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's feasible to update the road spec, but it's something we should just look into.
Oh, I have it up that's my giant list because it
I have-
requires 40,000, we could do it for less, I hope, but it's been talked about it for 30 to 40,000 in the past.
And I think I've mentioned this, Justin Willis redid all the public works specs for the town of Richmond.
Okay, cool.
I know, and he has a nice house on Brown Strace and he
Sure
did our
does.
septic.
He did my septic too. I love that guy. He's great.
He really is great because he came in the middle of, we had a 12-year-old failure.
Oh,
12 years
Years
oh,
old.
that's right, Justin.
Oh, I didn't want to hear about that.
Oh,
Scares me.
the amount of money, it was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyhow.
anyhow.
So the next one on my list was, again, these are some of these small, some big,
Yep.
Fixing the Light by Jericho Ale and Bean.
Mhm.
Looking at salt alternatives, what I wrote is like, let's at least just have something that we can have available, what information there is available.
Eric, can you email these? Do you have them in a?
Sure.
That would be great.
The nice thing is Donna's gonna put them all in there too, because we
Well,
want her to do that.
Yeah.
We really want her to do that because I've got
Yeah, that's why.
a
we're
list
reading
and a
it,
half.
But I don't mind sending.
No, that's fine.
Somebody asked for a road crew calendar somewhere where they can show what their schedule is. I wrote it down. I'm not my reading these is not necessarily. me
Advocacy,
agreeing with-
just stating here
Just
are issues that were requested of the board.
And I also don't dislike that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think it's impossible, but
So somebody asked
Yeah.
for a quarterly newsletter for people not,
that was Martha.
yeah, which I get a newsletter that I skip over and don't read. Anyway, that was a request.
Because people at one time talked about it, including Phil and Wayne talking about putting a newsletter out,
Yeah.
And there is I had a conversation with Emily Alexander, who's like, I don't know, I don't use Front Porch Forum. I don't have a cell phone. I understand that I'm the oddball, but not snottily, but like genuinely, like, how much would it actually cost to 4 times a year just send something to every town in the house? Is that an exorbitant cost? And if
You mean like that?
piece of paper
Oh, wow.
in the mailbox.
Does that? That's
That's what we used to do that before,
Yeah.
like literally before Front Porch Forum, like 15 years ago,
Yeah,
a quarterly thing came out.
right.
A piece of paper sent around to everyone in town.
Yeah, I mean, because that was Norma's.
Yeah, but that's what the request was not a digital
Why
newsletter.
not just download the newsletter that we're publishing on the website?
Because I don't have a computer,
Right.
because I don't use the internet.
We could just
That.
download it and send it.
Oh.
And
But-
send it or have it available for people to swing by and get.
And that would
Oh.
be bi-weekly though, because by the end of the month, I mean, hers are just, there's not like monthly information of,
And maybe it's a targeted thing where
Yeah.
we promote it somehow, not digitally, promote it somehow
Yeah.
and say like, hey, we have this newsletter. We would be more than happy to send, if there's 35 people in town who are 85 years old and don't want to deal with this stuff, we can mail that to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's one reason Martha also mentioned the quarterly, because she knows a lot of people who don't have cell phones
Right.
and don't have computers.
Right, that still care about the town and want to know what's going on and
Yeah.
feel pretty left out.
That's right.
And then I put, which they covered we covered in the public to be heard, but we need to start considering the logistics of how this pre-meeting for town meeting could look like.
Yeah.
And just start understanding what's legal, what's not legal, what the timeline might have to be, all that kind of
What's
stuff.
happening in other towns. We have immediate access to adjacent communities.
Yep. So that was from town meeting, and then this is sort of the list of things that I think we need to consider this year. So some of these are a little bit more of my opinion and less just writing
Factual.
down. They're also just me recollecting, and I guarantee I forgot some things. Again, started out with Bernie. We need some resolution on these speed signs. You know, we bought these mobile ones. They never made it out this summer.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
We've got the fixed ones that just keep breaking, and so that's the first one
Right.
I had on my list.
Paula, what happened to the mobile signs for Skunk Hollow?
We have them. It's the highway guys that should put them up. I mean, they
Right.
have to just tell me where they put them and I can name them on the computer.
Yeah, I honestly think that, getting back to my earlier point, I think because of the interface issues that we're having with new parts versus old parts, I mean, these things are more complex than I think we anticipated. I think the way to go is to contract with, put out an RFP for a sign company that would be interested in, because the other issue is the immediacy piece. And I've heard that over and over again, and I get the public safety concern. But the reality is, when we've got the road crew responsible for doing that.
No, that's a
And
very,
they
it's a
have to-
very,
And they
it's a
have
good-
to plow,
good
like,
point. Yeah,
public safety is a really broad target to hit.
absolutely.
And.
Again, this is a list of things we need to keep in mind, not to fix tonight, but just to like.
No, I get it, but I'm at the point where, the number of hours that I've spent addressing concerns about operational signs, and again, not diminishing the importance. But
The frustrating part of it comes in that I don't know another real way to curb speed.
yeah,
And I'm not saying they work 100%, but they're the best option we have.
It is.
yeah,
And I just,
100%.
any other suggestion I listen to politely, but I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah.
I do think narrowing the lanes probably, especially coming into the center where you make that turn, like, that probably is gonna help
If you've
some.
had bounce trace for a while. when
Certainly
you're-
as someone who's never been in town, right? But
Yeah.
like, once you get used to it, maybe not, I don't know, but
Yeah, I
those
mean-
I do think work, they help me, like, if I
Yeah.
find myself, like, ooh, I didn't realize,
Right. But also narrowing, it did work for a while in Brown's Trace through the center, but it's never gonna, people are gonna fly through, but I'll tell you.
we gotta go Scandinavia style. We
Yeah.
gotta get the photographic speed signs.
So I
Send
saw
a
an
Send
article,
a ticket in the mail.
I saw an article, because I remember Catherine keeps saying that's not legal in Vermont, I didn't get a chance to dig into it. But
I heard
maybe
rumblings that.
They're
that-
trying to
that
think
they're-
about
They're
that.
looking.
The legislature is.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually heard about that.
Yeah.
So I
Finally,
think
because
that-
so many
I think
people have made
is the
that
answer.
complaint.
I think that's the answer.
It really is.
If you really care, like in London, I think I probably told you this last time we talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
But like.
Oh,
we-
my God.
We went I took an Uber just to the airport, and the guy's like, if I go 1 mile an hour over on this road, I will get a ticket.
Yeah.
So that, like, I don't want you to think I'm slowing down or
Right.
whatever, like, I.
Running up the meter.
Yeah.
Well, they got cameras everywhere though,
I
in
mean,
London, in
like,
in
that
England.
Particular road is like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So we need to make a decision on that sidewalk. I know I punted it. Personally, I punted it. That I wasn't ready.
I'm glad you put it there because that's.
You mean the sidewalk, the Griswold to somewhere?
Yeah, we can. talk
Griswold,
about
the.
To
Somewhere.
nowhere.
I had
Yeah.
that on my, my
Yeah,
list.
it's on my
That's
list
good.
too, so I'll
Um,
just pass it, but
This one's on me, Catherine, you're gonna be mad, so I'm not trying to make you mad on this one. I would like some sort of action list, and this is just me, you can disagree, all of you can disagree. I would really like some sort of action list or calendar or something that shows what's gonna happen at the intersection of 15 and River Road. Because that is the biggest conversation. I have kids in middle school, that's the biggest conversation. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
You mean outside of Jolly?
Mhm. So, and I kind of understand that there's this, like, there's all these
Is
other
some-
plans that like.
Is
well,
something
we're gonna
happening
try to-
there?
no.
There's no plans, Benny. This is a genuine question. Is there any discussion of a plan like kids are talking about? Is there a plan
Well,
for that?
when I bring up, we need a light, is when we say, well, we're looking at moving the traffic flow and like, there's all
There-
these
there's-
like.
There's plans out there.
Oh, yeah, we've been studying, I mean, we've been talking about it for literally
But-
30
and-
years.
And part of it is that AOT
Yep.
will not do multiple traffic lights in a row. And so although the River Road might meet the warrants, but it still had, that you still have to do the studies to see if it meet the warrants. The town early.
Meaning like it's rating as an intersection, is it an A, a B, a C, an F?
Yeah, those kind of things. And then but the town early on, when I was first, early on here, because David, there was so other threats to do work on rivers in the
Right.
rivers.
Oh, yeah.
The Riverside.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Tourette's, and all kinds of money. But, eventually he might, but nothing ever happened with him. Then finally he sold it to Tatro, and Tatro worked very hard, and it took forever before he finally got his phase 1 through
Yeah.
the DRB. The idea is it has potential for a significant number of homes,
Mhm.
as well as apartments and things. So the idea was Dickinson would be the road that becomes a complete street. And
So you
and
come
have-
along from Underhill and you kind of, instead of going around the corner by the school, you kind of just go straight.
and it would have,
That's how it was.
Turn back into a two-way.
In the 90s, that's what it was. And people would come ripping down that, and then it's a straight shot. Like it's a straight shot from River Road into Dickinson.
and what you do
And
then.
it's people flying, you would come flying
And so
down there
what
onto
what-
dirt.
But Dickinson would become a full two-way street with a traffic light on 15.
And so because of that, and that probably does make sense, because of that, we're not doing anything on the current intersection. Meanwhile, people, like my wife doesn't go through it. She goes up and around. Like, I don't think what people
To
are
Park
doing.
Street.
Yeah, I don't think we want the traffic flow of what's actually happening right now.
Because
Well, do we know what it is? Do we know what the traffic flow is?
not
I
necessarily.
know that I go through the intersection when it's my turn, but.
When
my
you're
wife
driving
turns
to
right.
Browns River?
Yeah, she turns right out of Browns River, goes up, goes into Underhill and comes back. I'm not throwing her into the bus.
Leaving Browns River, she takes a right and goes up Park Street and takes a left.
Yeah.
Because
Because
it takes forever to get out of Jolly, or because it's dangerous?
Because it takes forever to get out of jail. You just sit there and wait and wait.
Oh,
And
if you
wait. And
did-
it is dangerous, but
Well, and of course, when I go.
the
up,
only,
in and out-
saving grace is if a pedestrian comes over and hits
And
the
presses the
button.
button.
And then you can go, then.
Block
Yeah.
traffic and get out,
Yeah.
right?
But the other part of what I was saying is that the River Road then going into the Deborah Rawson would be one way.
Right.
You'd come
We
in.
had this was a plan. That's
That's a real plan.
a plan that was that was put together by
Yeah,
someone
Yeah.
where River Road becomes one way in
right,
front of the school.
exactly.
And it's basically like a humongous roundabout.
Yeah,
Down River Road, up Dickinson, down 15. That was how you had to travel around those.
right.
That
But it
area.
really slows traffic down. It doesn't, but so, I mean, everybody thought there would be more activity on that property
On David's
Yeah.
property, right?
long
Yeah.
before.
10 years ago.
And that's why, there's no traffic light, because we were told by AOT that if you put one there, we will not do one down here.
There, meaning Dickinson and Jolly.
Right.
But like, I don't want to just wait forever because we might get a traffic light here when we need one here now. And I get the other side, but.
Yeah.
So again, this is just something to like, we need to keep on our radar. I would like to keep on our radar. I don't know how to advance it. I don't know what.
Or
to
maybe we could
specifically
just
to
make it
advance.
one way anyway, and but you'd have to just make a real Dickinson's not very big, but you could make it two-way
Yeah.
without a traffic light.
It has been
Anything
two-way.
Yeah.
Anything we do is gonna upset some people. I get it, but
Oh,
like
absolutely.
the current intersection, that one's terrible.
We could try,
Especially
people would go,
morning.
why is this road, which is nice and paved, only one way, and you're making me go down Dickinson,
Yeah.
which is
Well, we probably
gravel.
have to pave it.
Yeah.
Like, in order, I think you got it.
We would have to. I mean, we actually looked at that. We even looked at a roundabout at one point.
Right,
that way.
right. And we're gonna incorporate Raceway and the market and then a big roundabout right there.
Yeah, absolutely. People loved it, except the people whose property was going to be taken, and they didn't like that.
Who was that? Was that Paula
The one
at
house.
the corner of Raceway? And
Yeah.
So I have that. I had Palmer Lane on there. We talked about that. I'd like to provide some input to the planning commission on the zoning changes. I really want them to be effective. And I'm not saying they have to mirror everything Chuck has been saying, but I do think that we need to provide guidance that those, and I haven't looked at them, maybe they will. But I do think that.
They're working on bylaw updates right now, so, but I think it has to do more with the, Riverside.
But I think we should take some time. And
Can't
maybe
both,
yeah.
those things can both happen
Yeah, at the same time.
in parallel.
Yeah, but I would wait on to the end of this thing, because there's a couple things that are happening in Act 250 in terms of people. Like,
Tier levels and,
tier level,
yeah.
because, to Chuck's point, he wants to put things way out in the hinterlands, but one, it's not gonna be affordable. It really won't, and for a lot of reasons, but two, that may become a tier 3 property, those different areas, because the state has to save 30% of the land by 2030, and 50% of the land by 2050, and that's by law.
Mhm.
It has to be
The state
considered.
needs to help us with with education or something, right? So
Yeah.
I think we need to provide some input
Yes,
into these things, because.
very good.
To Chuck's point, we're not gonna, like, this plan, we adopted it and we need to do it. So I think we need to, maybe we put an agenda item on and we just say, what do we want?
Well,
And
actually,
that, at least so we have something that we can provide to them, so we're not just waiting for them to do a ton of work.
what is good idea is that there's a discussion of having a retreat with the planning commission and the select board.
Well, that's a good idea.
And then this is, you can talk about these things in a full retreat.
That's a good idea. Okay. So I had that. Oh, and then this is a big one. It's kind of two subjects but sort of related, is the concept of impact fees.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, that's a
this-
good one.
So this
Actually,
goes back to my,
Do they not exist right now?
we do have little, but they're very minor.
Oh, okay.
So-
Okay.
so.
What do you mean by the
happened
concept
is
of them?
I went for, Matt, the Underhill Jericho Fire Chief, Matt Champlin, asked me to go for a ride with him. And so what he did is we drove around to some new developments. Gave me a great perspective of how he goes about getting his.
How he
trucks up
thinks about it,
there,
right.
and like, we drove a fire truck up, he didn't let me drive, but.
Ah.
But we drove up some of these brand new developments with that truck, and he's like,
See,
it
doesn't
was
work.
pretty powerful. He's like, okay, so I gotta get water. So what do I do if there's a truck coming down to go get water and a truck coming back up? Can't work, so he's showing me some of these things. So what he's would like to see, and I'm not saying that we do what he says, but he's got the most skin in the game in this type of thing. He would love to see us, not for existing, but for new developments, start charging a pretty serious impact fee. And then take over the road. So rather than leave, especially on these like newish ones, let's say maybe they're built to spec when they're built. But what's the incentive to keep them at the proper width and the proper this and the.
And not
proper
let it
that?
just kind of creep in and.
Yeah, and so whereas if we own it, we are obligated to.
Then, but it have to be really substantial, because you're asking for a whole lot more road crew.
Well, and exactly, but that's what Essex does right now. So like if they put a new thing in, all right, it's our road, we've got it, and you've got $1.5 million assessment of road impact. I don't know what the numbers are, but.
It's substantial, yeah.
But it would have to be substantial, because you're absolutely right. You'd have to start to add trucks and whatever.
Yeah,
Again,
so,
it's
but there are
something
other
to
ways of using
consider,
those,
but
you could, we could look into ways that require these homeowner associations, because they all have associations to be able to do that. And if they don't, then maybe they do get charged a fine, because the fire department can't come.
yeah, and that affects more than just like the unlikely chance of a fire. What it affects, and the way he explained it to me was, let's say there's a fire. It's one of these roads. He can't get up there. Can't get up there in time to save it. So the first thing that happens is hopefully no one's hurt, but let's just say the house is destroyed. First thing that's gonna happen, the insurance adjuster gets there. Insurance adjuster starts doing some things.
I was
they look
looking
at-
around,
They start looking around, they're like, so what's going on
these
here?
7 houses are in the exact same situation.
And all of ours in this area, insurance rates go up because that happened. So,
Probably not yours and mine.
No.
But but the people in that
No, I mean,
development,
the way he explained it to me, it's everyone in this area. Okay.
like
It
it,
depends
like
on
in,
where you, it depends, it's.
but my
I
house
don't know
on
if- I
15,
don't know how-
okay, but in general, it has an impact on, at a minimum, people on that road and the surrounding areas.
Exactly, minimum of that road in that area.
And it could be, and who knows, it could be any new development in Jericho. I don't,
Right, yeah,
I have no, I don't claim to understand that, but the way he described it is, that's a very real thing that can start to cost us, so.
And they used to have a high their ISO ratings were quite high. I mean, it was, most areas were tens, which
Which was good.
no. That meant tens meant, you know, that you really don't have much.
It's true, yeah, when I remember.
You
I
said
bought a
whose
house-
ratings were bad? like that?
The ISO ratings.
Were bad where?
Were in Jericho. The outer, you know, the rural areas in particular, I mean.
Oh,
They were rated tens because,
okay,
you know.
okay, got
Yeah, when I first bought the house, when I lived in the foothills.
Which
the-
meant-
My current insurance that I was using, they're like, oh, we don't cover there, you're too far from whatever.
Yeah,
Water.
well, Randy Clark used to talk about the ISO ratings being really good in, maybe he meant in Riverside, because like you
Oh,
have.
yes,
Because
exactly.
you have the trucks right there and you have the fire, you have
Oh,
the
yeah,
fire
and
hydrant
that's
here and
where the
there.
ratings were
Right,
really good,
right,
absolutely. So it was like, you know, a 6 or 5 and a 10. you
Right,
know.
yeah,
And so they've worked the rules down to, you know, they're, you know, in closer, they're still not great, but there's, you know, they're in. But not, what's interesting is not all insurances use the ISO ratings anyway. They look at just what's happening around, so it's fascinating. But that's one of the reasons we went to putting the fire department on its own separate budget line, because you look at that and go, oh, you know, that's only so many dollars per year. That's a really good deal for rescue and fire.
mhm.
If you calculate it on your taxes as opposed to, oh, well, I paid X, boy, my insurance is, no, it's a lot. Blah, 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 kind of stuff. Okay,
So that's my list.
oh, okay. All right, I have a, you know, an erratic little list. I had most of the stuff that you had talked about. The town meeting included, but I also had that they also like the idea of having the road foreman be present when we're discussing roads and what's happening with the roads.
Yeah, you would need to have one in order
Yeah.
to do that.
And that's the first step,
Exactly.
to get one.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're
that-
talking, this is during budget discussion.
And then the other idea is real easy, put the FAQs in the town report. Rather than pass them out.
Put the what?
So
Frequently asked questions. People, you know, we've
in
put,
regard- Yeah, in regard to the budget.
Yeah,
in regard to
that's
the
good.
budget.
Where is that?
Everybody asks like, it's
Does that
not,
exist?
oh yeah, we pass them out every year.
They were, it was up on the stage.
People
could
come
go
out,
with
pick
them.
up,
Okay, I didn't see, okay.
yeah, because people come up because they like to have the frequently asked questions. They usually pick them up. It used to be easier.
I got you, okay, yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and put it in the town report. Because then you don't have to worry about it. And I also have some stuff that was similar to yours, the fixing the light, but I also have the lighting in the center.
Oh, yeah.
That I, you know, I see how much it costs and how much ARPA money we could have to use to put new lights that look like these current ones, but since these current ones don't exist anymore, we have to look at new kinds. I have the radar signs, which you already did. I don't want to get into figuring out the non-binding town meeting January yet.
No, but it's just something,
But I
what's
also,
gonna happen is the year's gonna go by like this. and
Yeah,
All of a sudden,
and-
we're gonna be
and
like,
I'll-
oh, how do we do it?
And I'll
So-
tell you, people have been on me about that. They're like, so you guys made a plan tomorrow night? I'm like, I'm not even on the freaking board yet, so no, we're not.
Yeah.
Well, and we're not gonna-
And that's why Gay was here. Gay was here to talk about that.
oh, I wonder, no, we're
and-
not talking
and-
about, it's too early. We hit.
I disagree. I think.
But I have some ideas, but I didn't want to get into it tonight because there's so many other. things.
No. 100%. Yeah, I don't want to discuss it tonight, but I think that people who love town meeting, like myself, I went into that meeting, not in a panic, that's an exaggeration, but like really torn, not knowing how to vote, thinking, is this gonna be a public vote? What am I gonna raise my hand to in public? I was really anxious about it. And all the people like myself who are like really genuinely horrified about not having town meeting anymore,
Right.
I think it's incredibly important that the select board
Yeah.
essentially immediately make a statement about what our commitment is and form a committee to lead that up. And people are saying like, the Jericho Town Library should be there should be food there should be.
No.
Oh.
I think all that should still stay with town meeting, well, actually voting
No,
day.
no one's gonna come to town meeting.
Yeah.
No one's coming to town meeting
Oh,
ever again.
no, I haven't seen, I mean, that's, people that go in to vote will still do all that stuff, because they'll go up and
Oh,
down,
that's true.
yeah.
Go get your ballot. You're
Go get your
supposed to buy
ballot.
the food.
That's why all that stuff, because more people, the whole point was gonna drive more people to
Yep.
the polls. So that's what should stay there. But we can have the non-binding town meeting, and that is the food hub is talking about community dinners.
Mhm.
So you would engage the food hub, you see if you can get the cafeteria and the kitchen at MMU, and you have a dinner first.
Yep.
That would get people, that's the social time, and then you talk about.
Like, I would say an early lunch. If you're doing anything first, I do an early lunch, because it took us eight hours.
Well, but
Do it early.
but the budget was
We do
only 2
breakfast.
hours. All it's gonna be is a budget based.
Oh, so
Well,
it's
no,
not-
it's
oh,
not.
No, it's all the questions now.
Well, there's no.
No, not the
questions.
town meeting part, not the discussion part.
Yes, that was the
Oh, that's
same-
right.
Same.
She
in that-
said,
that's
no,
right.
she said people could come in who are interested in having a question, can float it, but that may or may not happen. So you're not really gonna do the warning itself.
But I
But
was
you-
trying to get at that point, and I wasn't able to articulate it, but that's what I kept asking. Like,
What exactly are we talking about?
yeah,
Like,
what exactly are you hoping this amendment will do? And what I got thinking about is, here's the way I think about it. We're not allowed in town, currently, pretend we didn't change anything. In town meeting, obviously, we're allowed to amend any of those things.
Right.
Because we spent half our time doing that. You're obviously not allowed to amend anything that's on a ballot there. And so the things that went on a ballot were very specific language and the bond voting, all that, right?
yeah.
Like, obviously, those
Are not up for
those
discussion.
aren't for discussion. They've got the 15% of the 10%, whatever it is. But I do think that you could allow input into that, just like you are with the budget of like, what should this question look like on the ballot? For those things, not for the ones that are locked in. And that's what I took that amendment to mean when they moved on.
Which is why I thought it had to be before that mid-January point, because she just wanted to be, because you have to still go out and get your petition filled in and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they'd have to start doing that earlier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything had to have to happen.
Well,
early.
not necessarily.
But that still has to
The
be,
petition would only have to make it in time for the deadline, not
Right.
necessarily in time for the meeting.
right, because.
Right,
But the other stuff would have
but
to
a
be.
budget conversation has to happen in time to arrive at a final number and
Yeah.
public, and then public,
Change it,
and
tweak it.
change the spreadsheet.
Meal and thing, but and I think people would come because it's a meal and then you could talk about it. So whether it's a Saturday lunch or, a Monday
Right,
dinner,
right, whatever.
these are things, but at least we thought about, it. But we're never gonna get done. We're talking ourselves away again. Because we still have executive session. And I had asked Paula to stay, but I'm not sure she's gonna be able to because she gets up so early in the morning.
She's still there.
Hanging in there.
So, okay, the radar sign, okay, I had that, lighting in the center, the non-lighting, okay. Update public works spec, we already talked that. Choose the preferred alternative to the Route 15 sidewalk, and these are some really old ones. We need to finally get a job description for the assistant town administrator. We still do not have one of those.
We don't have an assistant town administrator? God, I'm sure we have one.
We do, but no job description. She already has 3 jobs already that she's doing.
She's gonna kill me. I keep picking him.
And then we have to get the work done on the ROM this year,
The what?
the old road mill.
Oh, gosh.
It's got to be done this year.
I've been saying
because-
that for 3 years.
Yes, and it absolutely has to be done this year because there is a presidential election that would absolutely take away whatever money that is left for the wall. It would be gone. It has to be done.
Wait,
Yeah.
what? Say that again? I don't follow the connection there. The presidential election?
So
Yes.
there's a lot of the funding comes from a specific federal grant for historic type things.
Okay.
And
That may be eliminated should a certain someone become president.
Yes,
That if Donald Trump gets elected, that money will no longer be accessible.
exactly.
oh, I thought it was if Biden won. I'm just
What?
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So it
That's
needs-
gonna be a big push.
yeah.
To get all the work completed.
Like a big lift, like
Well, you at
big
least get
effort.
it started, because then you get, at least the money, we've got to get, because we can't even access the grant until the foundation is done.
Right.
So at least if we get the foundation done, maybe we can get the grant money in and at least,
Yeah.
move it along. Anyway, we also have to get that Lee River sidewalk moving, because that also is, if there's usually a certain amount of time limit to do a sidewalk without having to give the money back. I want to update the personnel policy, and we need to create one that's more accessible for committees and volunteers. Because
What do you mean
there's,
by that?
what,
What do you mean by that?
because right now there's just a little teeny paragraph in the personnel policy that says this also applies to our volunteers for the committees and stuff. But it needs to, and I'll go why I did, because right now the RPC, eventually, what we're gonna end up doing is completely redoing the personnel policy at the RPC, because there's different sections that are being done. But the biggie is, the RPC is creating a code of conduct for the staff. And there's going to be applicable parts that we could put in there that really has to do with our code of conduct. And not only does that has to do with, how you treat other people, but it's also how you solve those problems. Rather than
Especially
just
with committees, I agree.
What the procedure is to
Right, the procedure.
navigate.
Rather than the procedure we have right now. What she's creating is actually much more interesting. And then she's also doing a code of conduct for the board and volunteermen. And it would be a little bit different than the one for staff, obviously, but it still tells you how you should participate. Not, because you're not giving up your civic responsibilities, that you can't give your opinion in public and things like that, but what you do within the building or within, parameters. And then, so, I think we need to do that. And then we need to update the public works specs. I've been saying that for, must be 5-10 years anyway, but.
Ollie, scared yet?
So anyway.
I am.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big lift. There's no question about it. The amount of stuff. There's my, there it is, my agenda. There's that list, tickler list. All right. So what we have now, do you have a list?
I have a couple things that I wanted to talk about, or just like
Okay.
say. I think the town meeting, whatever it's gonna be, committee thing, there are people who are saying like, when's that gonna start and how do I get involved in that? And I want to be the leader of this. And I think that we need to strike while the iron's hot. And I'm suddenly not suddenly, I'm very aware of my personal public persona. And so like, for example, I don't think it'll be appropriate for me now as a member of the select board. There's a bunch of posts recently about like the mourning the loss of town meeting.
Right.
And I was gonna say, that's not true. Here's what's gonna happen, da, 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 da. I don't want to say that, but I do think that there needs to be a sense of the select board hears this, approves of this, is on board, is gonna move forward with it. And so I think the three of us need to decide sort of what it is that we're on board with and supportive of, and then be able to articulate that in public.
And that's how the select board responds to Front Porch Forum.
Sorry.
It's because we don't do it individually. Tim did that once and when he was.
Yeah.
And it was just a nightmare.
Right. I mean, that's,
And so we said the select board members don't.
Right. Yeah.
But what we do sometimes do is we do a sense of the board and post that, or have John post it.
Yeah.
And that's how it's handled, so that it doesn't get into some of these.
No, it's not productive whatsoever.
No.
But I think that what's important is that somehow the message get out to people that the select board has heard the will of the people, that we want both the access and equity, the equity of access for all people in town.
Right.
And we don't want to lose that sense of community, that community togetherness, which has got to be more than just show up and tell us what you think about the budget. It's got to be a sense of that direct democracy, I think.
And see, now this is where you learn how the sausage is made. We say, that's a great idea, Peter. You want to draft that comment so that we can.
Draft the Front Porch Forum comment?
Yes, and then
Okay.
we will take a look at it and
Okay.
make our comments, and then John can post it.
That sounds great. The other thing that I was gonna suggest, by way of consideration is. The need to stand up a completely new and independent committee to do that work versus,
Yeah, that makes me sick.
yeah,
We have so many
just
committees.
from a management.
But I
Right.
love the idea of a
Standpoint.
committee doing it, not us, so
Like-
yeah.
Like.
This would be a temporary committee, yeah.
Yeah.
But- Or.
I think it's citizens who say, I want to be in a conversation where this thing gets
But-
developed and figured out and,
Sports, yeah. you
right,
don't
yeah,
have-
not a committee, right, I
Not a
mean,
committee.
Oh, you can-
Just like the RP, just like the Jet Force or the Hub.
Yeah,
It's a task force. People, because that way people come and go, they're not committed to a term, and we don't have to set up another one.
Who's gonna manage it?
I think.
I
it's-
mean, I
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I think it's a select board member has to manage it.
Gay Simonson said, I'll run the whole thing.
Oh,
Gay said, I'll lead that, and then Lynn Robbins also said, yeah, I'll lead that. Lynn Robbins said,
Yeah.
Lynn Robbins said, I
Those are
already
good
have notes written, I have ideas written down, like they're. gung
that's a
ho.
great idea.
But also brings up an equity conversation. So I think, given the passion around it, it could be problematic to handpick committee members to
Mhm.
do that work. I think if we're gonna go that route, and one of the reasons I brought it up was that very reason is that it would have to be an open opportunity. It would have to be, the select board would have to do some kind of screening, interview process.
I don't know.
I mean, can it just be this, can it just
I don't
be?
like John's response, but I think he's right.
Yeah, I don't like it either,
Because-
because I'm trying to think about why, because the food hub, these were people who already were,
That's
from the-
true. The
The
food
commission, they came up and said, I want to do this.
The I committee are the ones that put together the push for Australian
But not, but
ballot.
they didn't.
But their idea was not,
their
someone was
idea-
blaming them for being not prepared. I said they weren't prepared because this wasn't the plan. They had a plan,
They-
simple,
they-
Australian ballot.
Yeah.
Right.
The amendment threw the whole thing off. They
So-
never had any plans for this whatsoever, so I don't see them as responsible
No, they're
at
not.
all for
They-
this.
I agree.
And so I don't think that, because it's not up to the DEI committee, it's folks who were interested, and
Right.
if Gay was interested and Lynn Ramos is interested, just like Dave Clift
Yeah, I don't know.
Does it need to be,
I
does it,
think, so here's what I'd suggest in the interest of time. I think we all agree it needs to be something that we work on.
yeah,
Right.
Maybe like over the next 2 weeks, because we've only had 48 hours since
Right.
that was
Yep.
made, like. Maybe you, especially since you brought it up, I'll nominate you to do all the work. Like, here's what I found out, like, these people are interested, we have this going on, and then like take a little time and then. We bring it up in a select board update, or maybe even we get it on a ballot, we get it on an agenda item of,
well, and see,
discuss.
Discuss,
Committee or
yeah.
task force.
and the task force is already looking into doing community dinners. So, I mean, the hub, the food hub, I mean, so they're already a natural committee to do it in terms of food. And organize that.
But if you were able to, I'm not saying it has to be by this next select board meeting, but
Mhm.
maybe if you could, we could get a agenda item. And you can say, we're gonna talk about this. And that way people could see it.
Right.
We'll try to get maybe we'll publish our agenda a little early.
Well, but if making up this, if next Tuesday I were to. If by next Tuesday, John put something in Front Porch Forum saying. The select board has, heard clear, that obviously people, whatever, it'd be phrased clearly, people are upset, we're committed to this. The next agenda,
Still there.
I think she just came in, she left and but the select board will be talking about this, and everyone who's interested in having input into this, you're welcome to come and be a part of the conversation if we figure out how to make this a reality, that kind of thing.
I think that's a good
Great.
message, and I think
Okay.
that is our intent, like
Right.
I don't know any of the answers, but I
No,
have a general idea of what I think people were getting at.
I think SJ has an idea. SJ.
I just wanted to offer that the DEI committee has actually done a lot of this research and a lot of this legwork in terms of what other towns have done. We 100% envisioned exactly what the friendly amendment was and didn't we were advised against making an article that was too complicated and hoped that exactly what would happen on the floor would happen. So that this would work out. All of that is to say that we've got a lot of research that, or I should say, Maria now has a lot of research that I'm sure the committee would be happy to share with you if you want to reach out. So a lot of this work is done in terms of what other towns are doing. The town that the gentleman who made the friendly amendment that he mentioned that has kind of a way that they're trying to do voting at the same time, whether that's something we want to consider or not, whatever is fine. But this has been part of the research that has been ongoing for the last couple of months that we just didn't include for, I don't know, ease, simplicity's sake.
Yeah, and again, I think not deciding anything tonight, making sure people understand, we understand we've got to figure something out. We've already got a couple ideas, maybe it's a task force, maybe it's a DEI committee, what, you know, I think letting people know that we're on it and we're committed to figuring out how it might look over the next, over the coming months.
But we need to move on because
We gotta go. Did you have another one?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, just the idea of, as I'm sort of what I'm being new to the board, what I would love to see, and maybe it doesn't make any sense, but sort of like an annual calendar, like, oh, we know in October, we have to, I'm making this up, we got to begin the budget in October, and we have to, so it needs, and Winooski Valley Park District, they said they want to come back in a year, so we should be expecting them back next March, like just sort of
Well,
like
actually,
what.
they might come in before the budget, you know.
Okay.
They could bring in their budget.
Okay.
That's a good idea. I actually had a similar thought. I'm like, boy, this coming year, I want something to remind me that budget season is coming, you know, because somebody is so busy and whatever. Now we gotta be.
When I was in the school board, we had an annual calendar. We knew like, oh, we knew that in May, you were doing this, you were finishing up the school year, you were dealing with teacher contracts, like you just knew what the things that come up were gonna be.
Yeah, that would be, and we probably do have one.
We do
look at or
We
something,
do
but-
have one. Paula, you're familiar with that, the sort of month by month, it shows kind of linear stretches of time that time-driven projects need to be accomplished by. I've got it hanging over my desk. I don't know who made it. Whether it was Wayne or.
Probably.
It probably was Wayne because Wayne, that was one thing that Wayne had always asked for.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, starting probably the end of October, definitely starting the first meeting of November, every single select board meeting has a budget section to it.
Yeah. And
every single one.
Time to do it, right? So we, especially if we start doing, maybe that's where this putting times in the agenda things, right? So like, okay, so-and-so wants to talk about this. Okay, cool. You got 10 minutes, and then we've got an hour and a half for the budget or whatever, you know, like you start to
Because
use
we can do the budget in
that
2
time
weeks.
to guide your.
Because we used to do it, every single select board meeting had a budget section. Always, once you started the budget season, because that way, and then we also had the workshops to, you know, really drill down.
Fun times.
The other thing was, did the board ever have like a board retreat to like
Yeah.
have an unofficial, like have like a private reset? What's the plan? What's the next year looking like? To sort of
private.
No.
Well,
school boards do that.
It's gotta be warned.
It has to be warned, but people could come. They just don't have to be recognized.
You can
Start at 10 PM on a Sunday.
Right.
here.
But I guess maybe it's called a board retreat. It's publicly warned. Anybody's welcome to come. You can't talk.
Right.
We have done.
That's
And you
exactly.
can watch us. You can watch us talk, and
we build
hopefully
our-
no one shows up. Honestly,
When
You
we
can-
build the budget the first time, we do that. It's
Yeah.
warned. We're not on Zoom. We're in here. We got Brian. We're like,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
we're just talking.
Yeah.
And,
Because-
yes, people are technically
because we-
welcome because it's a public meeting, but
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 we're
it's not
talking to you.
Zoom because it's not,
We're not talking to you.
you're not talking.
Yeah. So I think when I was in the school board, that was always a really powerful way to like not just become like, oh, by the next meeting, sort of like just sort of, oh, a year went by. What the hell happened? But to have like,
Yeah.
we want by next April, we want to hit this mark, or you know, in 3 months, we want to just to have a sense of sort of a 10,000-foot view of what we're trying to do, and
Yeah.
not have
Yeah.
every 2 weeks, 3 hours get frittered, not that it's frittered away, but get lost, you know?
she said, when it's time to sign these, you can just cross that off, write your name here and then sign. I texted Paula back.
Okay. Would it say Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay,
So we need to do the minutes, sign the warrants, go into executive session. All right, quickie on the minutes. Obviously, it's just Eric and I because you weren't there. The minutes of February 15th, I just have one correction.
I want to see if it's the same one I got. If I did, then
You might have a different one, but what I saw that really stuck out to me is on line 15 on page 1.
oh boy.
And that's, we just had the name Todd. So it's still a struggle to get people on Zoom to give their full names.
Yeah,
But, you know, I mean, there was another sentence, but I just went, I don't care.
yeah. I have a little bit more significant one, actually, Catherine.
Oh, good.
Line 181. And the problem is I don't know what the right answer is.
Oh, you know, I saw that and I wondered, I couldn't
It said
remember.
alternative 2 would require 50 permanent and temporary easements. And then it said alternative 2 would require 6.
I
So-
saw that and I wondered about that, you know, because that's
so one of them
significant.
must be 50 and one of them must be 6. I don't.
That's what it is, yeah.
But I don't know which is which.
I don't know, I could look in the,
It's probably.
it was in those
alternative one.
slides.
I think alternative
181.
requires a lot.
Well, the 50 easements was the one that went down 15.
And I don't remember I don't remember now which was number.
Alternative 1, I thought was the rail trail.
No, I think that the realtor was probably 2. Because that's
That would make sense, only 6 easements.
yeah, with a lot of land. And alternative 3 is the old hybrid.
Right.
So it must have been alternative.
And it's
The
1,
181 changed that first 2 to a 1 is what you're
Yes.
saying?
yes,
Okay.
that's a significant one. Mine is just like, we need to get people to give their full names. So.
Oh.
You have,
Motion to accept the minutes as amended for February 15th, 2024.
I second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I don't, I have line 32
I didn't have anything.
on February 28th, and that's because the decimal is in the wrong spot. Because it says the increase in the tax rate is 0.17%. No, it actually, with what the initial tax rate was and with the increase in the grand list, it was 0.017,
Sorry, what line was that?
32.
.017%.
Yeah, 0.017. Because it was like one point,
It's negligible, in other words.
Am I signing this in one place?
right there,
Just that one spot, that's all.
Each
Yeah.
one has a.
yeah,
Yeah.
each one of these things,
They're.
Oh, each packet.
each
yeah.
packet.
Okay, so it's just a collection of all the things we paid.
yeah, all the things we've paid.
Motion to accept minutes from February 20. Sorry.
It's the 26th, I believe it is. Yeah.
February 26th as amended.
I second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's good. Oh, there's a little one here.
And I'll make a motion to go into executive session because premature disclosure of this information would be detrimental to the parties involving personnel and legal, and who am I inviting?
Paula, as well as John.
And I'd like to invite Paula Carrier and John Abbott to this executive session.
And so
And I need a second.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Paula.
Good night. Except.